Well, good afternoon. Good afternoon. This is Matthew's Memorial Baptist Church. We are people who are sharing the good news to transform unbelievers to committed disciples. We now have a place of worship. Feel free to come in at any time, just like you have today. Again, you are absolutely welcome.
Let's give it up for the pastor. Thank you, everyone. All right, we're going to go ahead and get right started. I want to welcome up the pre-DC meeting organizers to bring us into this space to tell us briefly about pre-DC, some of our community agreements that you will see on the screens, and how we're going to be in space together, and talk about what to expect. We also have ASL interpretation on the stage. Please give it up. And anyone who needs Spanish language access, please see us in the back if you need Spanish access. Okay, 3DC organizers, let's give them some love. When DC is under attack, what do we do? When DC is under attack, what do we do? When home rule is under attack, what do we do? When home rule is under attack, what do we do? When I say free, you say DC free. Free. When I say free, you say DC free. Free. DC. Welcome, y'all. My name is Mindy Teller. Y'all, I'm going to stay on script. Because I got a script. My name is Mindy Teller. I'm one of the co-founders of 3DC. Also, I'm executive director of Birds Daughters Rooms. Shameless plug. Everybody's in the house and more right now. Shameless plug. So, I'm joined here today by my fellow co-founders, Katie and Alex, to get us started today. I'm also a East of the River DC native. And I'm going to welcome you not only to the forum, but to the great Ward 8. Can we make some noise for Ward 8 East of the River? Can we make some noise for the church for welcoming us to here today? We are honored to be here today in Ward 8 and at the Matthews Memorial Baptist Church. Thank you to the community, the congregation in Matthews, for sharing your space with us, and particularly Reverend Dr. Joseph Turner, and the pastor, who's the pastor here, we all just met. If you know me, you know I love my people in D.C., and I especially love black people. So, as I'm telling y'all today, with 3DC, D.C. is under attack. Federal agents are profiling, shooting, and killing people in the streets. National Guards are harassing our youth. Congress is overturning our laws and attacking our budget. And this president is showing no signs of stopping. This year's election are going to be so important for D.C. future. D.C. is going to elect a new mayor for the first time in 12 years. Let me say that again. We're electing a new mayor for the first time in 12 years. We also elected a new delegate for the first time in 35 years. Shout out to our delegate, Eleanor Holmes. And to top that off, we got multiple new members that's running for council. We need every single one of these leaders to be on the side of the people and not this regime that's here right now. We need the 3DC. That's why we're here today. And we want to have a discussion about this. But at this time, I want y'all to look up. I'm not going to read them, but these are our commitment to anti-oppression. We prioritize the experience and leadership of our most marginalized neighbors. So I want y'all to listen to this as we listen to this debate. We prioritize the experience and leadership of our most marginalized neighbors. We give, go back. Holler at me. That's my guy though, y'all. I can't be mad at him. He holds us down, down, down. Okay, we build authentic relationships grounded in community. We meet people's material needs. We value quality, not just quantity. We meet people where they are. We acknowledge history and culture. So be clear, as we come here today to fight and for delegate. Those are our commitments to our people. And at this time, I'm gonna let Kaya tell y'all about what y'all gonna hear today.
All right, let's give it up for Nene. So today we are going to hear from these amazing candidates about how they are going to protect DC's power and protect DC's people. And that's what Free DC works on every day. And we want to elect candidates who are going to be on our side, on the side of the people. So Free DC is going to issue endorsements in both of the races that we're going to be talking about today. And we want your help in selecting who we're going to endorse. So we want everyone here to listen very carefully to what each candidate says and vote accordingly. Once Free DC makes endorsements, we're going to work very hard to make sure our candidates win, both in June and November. But there's something else I want to talk about that we collectively are going to have to do that we normally do not have to do in an election. No matter who wins the election this year, everybody in this room and everyone in our community is going to have to make sure that the results of DC's elections are respected and honored. And that is not guaranteed in this environment. So no matter who you support today, I see lots of people wearing lots of t-shirts. No matter who you support today, we need everyone to understand that we're going to have to work to win these elections and then defend the election results all the way until the day that our new leaders are seated. It's going to take a lot of active work from all of us to do that. So we need everyone here to find an organizing home. If it's Free DC, yay, Free DC! If it's another home, that's great too. But we want you all to, whoever you're organizing with, we want you to come with us. On March 28th, at the end of this month, we're going to have a No Kings March. There's information on the tables outside. It's going to start very close to here, and it's going to be a really fun day. We're also going to have to take action on May Day. It's International Workers' Day, and we are calling on May Day, it's Friday, May 1st, for a day of no work, no school, and no shopping. So that means right now, we need to put that in our calendars and make a plan for how we're going to make that happen. And that is just a month before our early voting starts, and that is really how we show our power to make sure that they respect our election results. All they understand is when we show our collective power. So we need to be committed to acting together collectively, no matter which candidates we supported at the beginning. And speaking of supporting candidates and speaking of voting, I'm going to pass the mic to Alex to run us through how today is going to work.
Thanks, Kaya. Thanks, Nene. Okay, I got to read off because I got to get this part right. I'm here to share the rules for the day. These were developed by our elections committee members. And the members of our elections committee were Robert Barton, Shania Loanea, Monica Martina Lopez, Dante O'Hara, Emily Siegel, Samantha Trumbull, and Jamila White. Could you all please stand to be acknowledged? Just raise your hand if you are on our elections committee. Y'all, these folks have been working so hard to produce today and our entire endorsement process. So our program today, the mayoral forum will come first with the candidates for mayor, followed by the candidates for delegate. We're excited to welcome Katia Stitt of WPFW as our moderator for the delegates forum, the mayoral forum. And Sam Collins of the Washington Informer will join us a little bit later as the delegate forum moderator. Please be sure to support WPFW and the Informer, our local independent media. It's so important now more than ever. The Elections Committee and the moderators have worked together to develop questions for each forum. Candidates will have a set amount of time to respond to each question. There will not be an opportunity for rebuttal. Dante on the stage here will be keeping time, and there will be a 20-minute intermission between the mayoral forum and the delegates forum. We will take a limited number of questions from the audience. If you would like to ask a question, there were note cards available at the welcome table. They should still be out there if you want to go grab one. You can write your question on the note card and just hold it up. One of our ushers will come and pick it up, and Robert and Emily will be selecting the questions that get asked. At the end of this forum, there will be a straw poll to determine the winner of the forum. Everyone should have gotten a ballot when you arrived. If you did not, you can get one at the welcome table. Everyone may vote for one candidate for mayor And one candidate for delegate. If you vote for more than one person, your ballot will not be counted. There will be 6 voting boxes that open at about 1:45. Please feel free to start voting, and they will remain open until 4:30. So you can vote starting towards the end of this program, during intermission, or after the conclusion of the delegate program. After the voting is complete, votes will be counted downstairs in the fellowship hall, and if any campaigns or candidates or community members want to join us to just witness the integrity of that vote, you're welcome to join us after the program. The results of this poll will count for 10% of any candidate's score towards endorsement, and I should add that the candidates, all of the candidates who are joining here today were invited based on the scores of their questionnaire responses. That was a complicated sentence to say. We invited all candidates who are running for these offices to complete a candidate questionnaire. The members of our endorsements committee scored those responses. The candidates who are joining us here today are the 4 top scoring candidates in both races. And the rules that I just stated are posted around the space and are written down. Finally, we want to thank the team of volunteers who are collecting questions and checking in and serving food and taking care of children and doing ASL and Spanish interpretation. And that reminds me, would one of our, yes, thank you. Would one of our Spanish language interpreters be willing to make that announcement? Thank you.
Hola, muy buenas tardes. Si hay alguien aquí que quiere interpretación al español, estoy con mi colega allí, mi colega puede saludar. Estamos con el equipo portátil, entonces si alguien quiere interpretación al español, por favor, que venga a hablar con nosotros ahí, podamos entregar el equipo. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. We also want to thank all of you for joining us here today. We want to thank the candidates for making time. We know it's a busy and endorsement season. And with that, I'm going to turn it to Katia to get us started.
Thank you very much, Alex, and thank you all for being here. We're going to jump right into it and welcome candidates Ford, McDuffie, I'm not speaking in the order you are in, Goodweather, and George. We appreciate you being here. So right now, we'd like you to please introduce yourself and share why you're running for office. You have 2 minutes, and we'll start with candidate Ford.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay. I'm reclaiming my 2 minutes. Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you, Pastor, for allowing Free DC to host this debate here. My name is Yaida Ford. I am a civil rights trial lawyer. I'm admitted in 9 courts, but I primarily serve the District of Columbia. I'm running for mayor because I care, and the number of cases that I get have not been resolved. I'm the only candidate, and the number of cases that I get have not been resolved at a council level or at the mayoral level, even though they could have been. And so by the time they come to me, they've already gone to the council for help, they've already gone to the mayor, and they come to me because I'm the only one with a proven track record of bringing accountability to the government. I represent DC residents against the District of Columbia government and against the federal government. And by the grace of God, I'm very successful. And my track record speaks to that, and I'm the only candidate in this race that brings that track record and that experience here today. So I look forward to sharing my answers, my platforms, my views with all of you. Thank you, and thanks, Katia.
Thank you very much, candidate Ford. Candidate McDuffie, you are next.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Pastor. Thank you to the church. My name is Kenyon McDuffie. I am a 4th-generation Washingtonian, a son of this city. I grew up during some of the toughest times in our city's history. I was fortunate to grow up and escape prison, to escape death during a time when we were the murder capital of the United States, during a time when we had a crack epidemic, and during a time when there was a war on drugs. I was fortunate after high school to try to figure out my way in life, but I struggled mightily. The thing that changed the odds for me was an opportunity. I got an opportunity to carry mail with the United States Postal Service, and it allowed me to save up money, to pay my way through college, and then to go on to be a prosecutor, a civil rights attorney, and eventually a member of the Council of the District of Columbia. But what's important for you all to know, public service is not a job for me. It is my passion, it is my life's work. None of these people on this stage, my fight is not with them. My fight is with Donald Trump and the people in Congress who make it hard for us to live, who are snatching up our immigrant neighbors off the streets. My fight is with them. And I'm running to fight and deliver for all DC. That means all 700,000 of our residents in all 8 wards, and I'm fighting to make this city a city that is safer, that is more opportunity rich, that is more affordable for the people who've been left behind. I'm running to give voice to the voiceless and to make sure that this is a city that works for everybody. Thank you all for being here. Let's go win this race.
Thank you, Candidate McDuffie. Next we'll have candidate George.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Janice Lewis George, a third-generation Washingtonian, a proud graduate of DC Public Schools and Howard Law, and more importantly, Pierce's mom. And I am running for mayor to do what I've done for the last 5 years at the council, and as an attorney and an organizer, and that's put people first. This election is about a simple question. In this moment of crisis, who do you trust to show up for all of DC residents in all 8 wards? People right now in this city are feeling the squeeze from every place. Rent is too high. Utilities are too high. Childcare is expensive. And families are being pushed out of neighborhoods that they built. And at the same time, Donald Trump, ICE, and Republicans in Congress have determined that DC residents don't deserve self-determination, dignity, and democracy. I reject that completely. That's why I have been on the ground with DC residents. That's why I've been in the halls of Congress defending DC home rule. That's why I have been fighting to end cooperation between MPD and ICE. That's why I fought against rent hikes. That's why I fought for our educators. That's why I have fought for our students. That's why I have fought for our tenants. For working families who too often feel like we have a government that puts profit over people. I am running for mayor to build a DC where all of our families can thrive, where all our families are safe. This race is very simple choice. This is about action versus inaction. Courage versus convenience, and standing up or selling out.
Candidate George.
Thank you.
Can I ask you, can I ask you, I know everyone is very excited today about their candidates, but if we could keep that to a minimum and do it after, because we don't have a lot of time. Okay, so everyone, please. Thank you. Finally, we'll hear from candidate Goodweather.
I love the excitement here today. I'm Mary Goodweather, and I am running for mayor of DC because I believe we should expect more. Expect more from our city, more from our education, more jobs, more opportunity, and more experienced leadership that executes on real results. I am running for mayor of Washington, D.C. because I love this city. I have built my life in this city. I met my wife here. My 2 amazing children were born and raised in this city. And I have built a career by building. I started doing tenant representation and then helped build neighborhoods, including NOMA, and served on the NOMA Business Improvement District Board, alongside with many other city leaders. And I served in the United States Army as an armor officer.
1 minute.
And I took an oath to the Constitution to serve all Americans, everyone, every single one. While I was working and building my life and building my career, I went to school at night at Johns Hopkins University here in DC and earned an MBA with concentration in finance from Hopkins. And I believe that now is this time in history that we need new leadership. We need a change. We need new ideas, new solutions. And my Jewish values encourage me, dictate to me, to Konolam, to repair the world. And I'm going to use my service, my expertise, and all my experience with my values to improve the quality of life of every single Washington, D.C. resident. That is my mission, and I will succeed for you.
Thank you, candidate Goodweather. Next question. Right now, DC is voluntarily participating in Trump's DC Safe and Beautiful Task Force. This has resulted in federal law enforcement agencies gaining access to sensitive information and our communities. And MPD officers are learning from Trump's police forces. If you become mayor, would that relationship remain the same or change, and if so, how? Candidate McDuffie, we'll start with you.
When I was growing up, it was during a time where federal law enforcement had descended on Washington, D.C. So when I see the National Guard today, it reminds me of the trauma that I've experienced in my own neighborhood. I know what injustice feels like personally, having been arrested 3 times in my own neighborhood as a teenager. It's one of the things that inspired me to become a civil rights lawyer, so that I can fight to protect people's rights. It's one of the things that inspired me to do on the council the Neighborhood Engagement Achieved Results Act, to make sure that we reform our police department and make things more transparent. It's why I put money in the budget to expand access to justice for tenants who live here so that they can have attorneys to represent them when they go up against slumlords. I have always been about justice and fairness, and I didn't just start it when I started this campaign. This campaign is not about rhetoric, it is about results. On day 1, we're going to end cooperation with ICE and make sure that MPD is keeping communities safe without the help of federal law enforcement. This campaign is not about empty promises to tell you what I'm going to do when I'm mayor. This campaign is about telling you what I've done my entire career on the council for 13 years, to give you a taste of what it's going to be like when I'm mayor.
30 seconds. Next, we'll hear from candidate Ford. Thank you, candidate McDuffie.
Yes, thank you. So we're talking about receipts. And to answer the question, no, the relationship would not stay the same. The Safe and Beautiful Task Force, I don't see this city any more safe and beautiful than it was before the president came in. But we're talking about receipts really quick. So I'm the only candidate here that has actually sued the federal government, the United States, and been successful in that. And they already know this about me, and so the relationship it's impossible to keep that relationship the same. The capitulation that we've seen, kind of the bowing down, the removal of landmarks, like the Black Lives Matter Plaza, just the removal of sanctuary city status, all of those things are capitulation to a particular agenda that is anti-democratic. And so for me as a candidate, the answer would obviously be no, because I've litigated against the United States successfully. In fact, they were afraid to go to trial against me and settled both of those cases, one within a week of trial and the other one 30 days before trial. So certainly with a fighter, and this city needs a fighter, and people want fighters. and I have a proven track record of fighting on behalf of district residents and succeeding. So absolutely, the relationship would definitely not be the same on day one. Day one.
Thank you, Candidate Ford. Thank you. Next up, we'll hear from candidate Goodweather.
DC will exit the big and beautiful task force, period. We need to replace it with locally controlled law enforcement. But how do we really solve the problem? Is we need to create opportunity and create a safe city for ourselves. And that is by creating jobs, opportunity. And I will say that I took an oath again to the Constitution, and I put on the uniform, and I served in the National Guard. And what is happening to our city is antithetical to what I served for. And it is antithetical to democracy that disenfranchises 700,000 of us, 700,000 human beings. And now is the time in history, our 250th anniversary, to get more, demand more for our city. We will address our city's problems, and by creating prosperity for every single resident, we will take control of ourselves.
Thank you, candidate Goodweather. Candidate George.
Thank you. As Ward 4 council member, I have seen the terror in our neighborhoods when families have been ripped apart, and I walked outside when an individual was being taken by ICE off the street. The terror in our community has been unacceptable. But I want to be transparent that the big, beautiful task force that was created hasn't been creating anything beautiful here in our city for district residents. And as mayor, I will ensure that we are going to operate from a space that anybody who wants to do good for the residents of District of Columbia, I will work with anyone who wants to do good and actually improve the lives and outcomes for district residents. But I will stand up to anyone who brings terror and harm to our community. Now, as an attorney who's worked here in the district, I know that we sit on several task forces, and we work with federal government. Now, I don't want my city left blindly, so I'm gonna put some people in the room on the beautiful task force, because I wanna know if they're coming after our children, if they're coming after our educators, if they are coming after our families, that we are prepared to stand up and fight back. And I'm going to be clear and transparent about what is happening. And I won't lend any DC resources to continue to terrorize our neighborhoods. That's why, as council member, I introduced legislation to end cooperation with MPD and ICE. And that's what I will do on day one as council member. I will be transparent about what is happening, and I will continue to fight for all of DC residents and be strategic and smart in doing so. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate George. Thank you, candidate George. Next question. During Trump's first term, Muriel Bowser took a position of defiant opposition. This time, she has been markedly more cooperative. As mayor, how would you approach the relationship with Donald Trump? And we'll start with candidate Goodweather.
You can call me whatever I want. I get called lots of things.
Oh, forgive me, I said Goodwater, sorry,
No,
Goodweather.
I've heard it all before. Okay, I'm burning my time. So, look, we knew what Trump was going to do this term based upon what he tried to do during the last term. How would we deal with this administration? I will tell you, first of all, that appeasement doesn't work. We have seen that before in history. How will my administration deal with this administration? With creativity. We have seen litigation have effects, and we will continue that. We will find new tools to be able to ensure that our residents, that our city is not only not terrorized by this administration, but that we get more. Transparency.
1 minute.
Transparency. We need to ensure that everything across every DC agency and every agency that is working alongside DC government, whatever capacity, that everything is visible so that we have the ability to see what is going on. And in that regard, we are going to revamp DC's website and be able to see, regardless of what
30
it is,
seconds.
that you have, that everyone sees every contract, every incident with the federal government, federal overreach, visible to everybody. And we will utilize all of the resources in this room to fight for each of you.
Thank you, Candidate Goodweather. Candidate McDuffie, your turn.
There's no deal that I would ever cut with President Trump or any president of the United States that I would allow them to terrorize vulnerable residents in Washington, D.C. That is not our values in Washington, D.C. That is not how anybody should live, not our immigrant neighbors, not black people, or not anybody else who comes to the District of Columbia. I've spent my career on the council fighting to keep people safe. I've spent my career on the council legislating in a way that fights discrimination when it comes to employment and banning the box, when it comes to fighting discrimination in housing and banning the box in housing, when it comes to making sure that people can't check people's credit in order before they give them jobs. I've spent my entire career on the council legislating in a way that helps DC residents. So there's no deal that I'm gonna cut with Trump that will allow him to violate the rights of our residents. But when it comes to growing our economy, when it comes to things like RFK, when it comes to creating thousands of jobs and investing in Ward 7 and 8, then I'm gonna be right there to work with any administration to make sure we can fight for DC. When it comes to cutting a deal to see $8 billion of investment to expand Union Station, to create thousands of jobs for young folks in our city, creating career pathways that lead from middle school into the workforce in the District of Columbia, then I'm gonna work with any administration to make sure that we fight for DC and deliver more opportunity into communities that haven't seen it.
Thank you, Candidate McDuffie. Candidate George.
Thank you. As a daughter of the district, I know how important it is. I've been fighting for statehood my whole life. And I also know how important it is to fight for a free DC. My strategy is going to be an inside-outside strategy. As an assistant attorney general, I'm going to work with our attorney general offices to use every legal tool we have to fight back in this moment against this administration. I am going to do what I have been doing every day, walking the halls of Congress myself, talking to members of Congress on both sides of the aisle to defend DC autonomy. And the number one thing I hear when I'm walking the halls is this is the first time I am hearing from elected leadership in DC. That is unacceptable, which is why my executive office of mayor will have a federal affairs office who works with me to build genuine relationships so that we can remain filibuster-proof in the House and the Senate and defeat DC's autonomy. But my outside strategy also includes you.
1 minute.
Because when we organize together and the collective power of the people of this city, we can organize and we can fight and we can defend our city and create a free DC. And it's gonna be really hard for one of my opponents who's taking Trump dollars to not comply in advance in this moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate George. Next question. Next question. Thank you. Cities across the country are...
Sorry, I did not get a chance to answer this
my
question.
apologies, my apologies. Candidate Ford, please.
Thank you. Pastor, I apologize, but I got to say this real quick.
Anybody know Crime Mob? I'll knuck if you buck. That's what it has to be, DC. I'll knuck if you buck. I've sued the federal government before. I've sued the United States. I've gone up against Department of Justice attorneys before. So I know what it means, right? I know how to fight, but I knuck if you buck. And in the court system, I work with malignant narcissists every day, including the Attorney General's office. And I would say that my approach would be a little different. You know, we have the elected Attorney General, but we might not And I don't know how many people in this room know this, but the House has already passed legislation to eliminate the Attorney General. So that ain't the play, not for me. We need all 8 wards to mobilize here and raise up a democratic resistance. They don't like it when I use the word militant, so I won't. But to quote Dr. Martin Luther King,
1 minute.
the reaction to the president when they failed to dismantle segregation using the power of an executive order was to raise up, in Dr. King's words, a militant resistance. So I use the word democratic resistance because we ain't got statehood yet. But in order to get it, all 8 wards have to stand together. And my plan as mayor is to be a bridge builder because we got 8 different cities here, folks.
30 seconds.
Ward 3 don't know what's happening in Ward 8. Ward 8 don't go up to Ward 3 and Ward 2 like that. We're a city amongst ourselves here in 8. I'm a Ward 8 resident, so I know. I got backyard hens. I raise my, I have fruit trees. I have a homestead here. But they don't know that we live like that here. They don't know what our reality is here. But as a bridge builder, all 8 wards, all 700,000 residents need to stand together and say to the president, I'll knuck if you buck.
Thank you so much, Candidate Ford. Thank you. Cities across the country are finding creative ways to protect their residents from Trump's forces, as we've seen. What are other cities doing that DC can or should learn from or emulate? And we'll start with Candidate George.
As you all know, DC is unique because we don't have statehood and we don't have our autonomy. But what we have seen is that the leaders in this country who have stood up and been courageous and fought back and who understood that compliance in advance is not a strategy are the ones who've been able to protect their residents the most. And so it is important for us in this moment to recognize that we have collective power. What I would do differently is I've seen our neighbors. They've created what I've seen as school walking buses because they've had to surround children and their families to go into school because they were scared of them being taken by ICE. Our city could have stepped up and said, our people don't need to walk our students to school to be safe. We have buses, we have School Connect. I would have used our resources to support our neighbors in protecting our residents against ICE. We've also seen leadership across this city, across this country. Governor Spanberger, what did she do on one? In cooperation with federal and law enforcement and her law department. And that's what I would do in every executive order that allows our resources and our police officers to be used for federal and law enforcement in our city. That's what we would do. We have seen mayors in Chicago and even next door in Baltimore stand up for their residents and organize with their residents to create a real resistance and to build relationships in Congress so we are filibuster-proof and have the leverage we need to fight back in this moment. That's what is going to make us win, and that's how we're ultimately going to get a statehood, but also a free DC to protect our residents every single day.
Thank you, Candidate George. Candidate Goodweather, please.
Here's the thing. Washington, D.C. is unique. We're better. We have more resources in our city than any other city in the United States to defend our residents, protect our residents. We have the highest educated workforce in the country. We have some of the most incredible organizing capabilities. I think we've seen it here today with Free DC. What you have done here today
1 minute.
is miraculous. And this is also where we need to utilize all of Free DC's and all of our city's resources to be able to turn activism into advocacy for all of our residents. And we are already in every level of the federal government. Workers, our residents here. And how much time do I have?
30 seconds.
And I will tell you that in terms of being able to get more for our residents, this is where the DC government needs to be able to create opportunities for our residents. We need together to be able to defend ourselves and utilize our resources to get more.
Thank you, Candidate Goodweather. Thank you. Candidate Ford, you're next.
So one of the things that I liked with what happened in Minnesota was when Minneapolis and Twin Cities, they basically shut down the economy. And it was planned, it was organized very well. And everybody stood down ICE. And then you saw within hours after that, the federal government left. They said, we won't go to work, we won't go to school until you get up out of here.
1 minute.
So that level of organization, I liked the way the city officials coordinated that, and that took a very unified effort. There were no stars in that. There were no viral moments from that. Because of the bloodshed and all of that, they knew they were dealing with something very serious. So I liked the unity in that, and we need a leader. As mayor, I would unify the city. We need a leader who can bring us together so we can raise up a resistance like that. The other thing that we need to use in talking about resources, we have a bar here that has over 100,000 lawyers. And for those of you who didn't know, the president actually started going after law firms here in DC because of the financial power that they have to do pro bono work for immigrants and other constitutional causes. And he threatened to ban us from courthouses and things like that so that we couldn't go to court and defend our clients. And so we need to engage that bar. I'm a member, I'm an active member at that bar. I was just with the DC Bar CEO for the last 3 days. So we need to utilize the resources that we already have and people who would do that work for us for free to help us raise up a resistance to this president. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Ford. Thank you very much. Candidate McDuffie.
As I mentioned, on day one, we're going to repeal the executive order that permits cooperation between the Metropolitan Police Department with ICE. All right? We're going to do that on day one so that it's crystal clear what DC values really are. We're going to make sure that we strengthen the mayor's office of legal counsel so that we can prepare to litigate where necessary. And there's going to be greater collaboration between the mayor's office and the office of the Attorney General when it comes to this type of litigation that can use the Constitution and the DC Home Rule Charter to make sure that we're defending residents of Washington, D.C. But we're also going to make sure that we recognize that D.C. isn't like those other places. D.C. is not New York City. D.C. is not Chicago. D.C. is not San Francisco. Some people want to run on empty promises that they can't deliver. I'm asking voters to check the receipts. People around this country are asking that ICE wear body cameras. Well, I legislated the District of Columbia's body-worn camera law. It's one thing to start running for office and then start introducing bills. It's something altogether different to say, look at my receipts and see what I've done.
5 seconds.
Do not fall for the banana in the tailpipe. Do not fall for the banana in the tailpipe. This campaign ain't about rhetoric, it's about results.
Thank you, Candidate McDuffie. We want to keep moving with the questions. We want to keep moving.
Hey, y'all, for real, we got to keep it because we got another forum to do and we want to be respectful of time. I know everybody's size, but let's be respectful so we can get to the next questions. Thank you. Sergeant at Arms, y'all, Nene from Southeast.
Thank you, Nene. So, the next question. The average income for Black DC residents is $40,000 to $60,000, while the citywide average is more than $100,000. When you cross the Anacostia River, the average Black income drops. We want to hear your plan to disrupt systemic poverty and income inequality. And to further articulate that, what are the 4 key areas you will focus on to shift resources, change policies, and redistribute power? And we're going to start with Ward 8 resident, Candidate Ford.
Thank you. I love this question.
One of the issues in our city, and many of us in this room already know this, is that our adult illiteracy rate is at 40%. That is a staggering number, and it's grown worse under the current administration that we have, the current mayoral administration. And so we can't keep ignoring the need to address literacy in our city, because that's directly tied to outcomes, it's directly tied to income, it's directly tied to everything. Right now, as I sit here, I know that the test scores for students in grades 3 through 8, CAS, what I'm talking about, 75% of our students are failing. They're not meeting benchmark in literacy, and they're not meeting benchmark in math. 75%, thanks LaJoy, 75%. Okay, those are not public. That what I'm giving you, you'll not hear, you will not find the stats that I just gave you. You will not find them on the DCPS website.
30 seconds.
Okay, I know that these are the records because I've represented educators. Okay, and they come to me and they talk to me and they show me things. But we are failing our kids under the current regime, the council, the mayor. We're failing them. So one of the things I want to do is reinstitute reading specialists in our schools. We need to also balance these equities. We need to bring back reading specialists, but we need to balance these equities between Ward 3 because they have the better outcomes
5 seconds.
than Ward 7 and 8. So the resources need to be shifted. Poverty is not a learning disability, y'all. Y'all quiet up in here. I know we in church and all of that, but poverty is not a learning disability. We have a resource issue. It's not a learning disability issue. So those resources need to shift, and we need to do an audit. I know people don't like audits, but I'm a lawyer. I like audits. I want to know. Give me the data as to who's making decisions to shift these resources and they need to be reallocated to the schools that actually need them and the teachers that are breaking their backs to try to teach these kids and the families too. I'm sorry. I went over. I got today, y'all, but I'm a respect.
Thank you so much, Candidate Ford. Thank you so much. Candidate McDuffie, you're next.
Washington, D.C. has the widest racial wealth gap of any city in these United States. White wealth in Washington, D.C. is 81 times the amount of median black wealth. All right? I didn't wait to announce my candidacy for mayor to start doing something about it. What I did was author a landmark Racial Equity Achieved Results Act to establish the council's Office on Racial Equity so that every bill that's coming through the council gets measured with a racial equity impact assessment so we know who's being marginalized and what the impact of the law is going to be. As mayor, I'm going to actually fund the mayor's Office on Racial Equity to make sure that we're using performance-based metrics to deliver the resources to the people with the greatest needs. And it's not just a promise that I'm making to get your vote for mayor. I did it when I introduced the first guaranteed basic income pilot in DC's history. We directed cash assistance to pregnant and expecting moms in wards 5, 7, and 8 through that measure. I also did it with baby bonds, where we established trust funds for babies born into cycles of poverty in Washington, D.C.
5 seconds, 5 seconds.
I funded it for 4 years straight, and the first thing I'm gonna do when I'm mayor is to make sure that every child born in the poverty in the District of Columbia gets a trust fund so that they can have hope and opportunity that they can stay in the city that would love.
Thank you, Candidate McDuffie. Candidate George, you're next.
Thank you. The inequalities in our city have existed since I was a young girl in growing up here in DC. There's a few things that we need to do. We have to create opportunity for our young people and our adults, which is why I'm talking about leveraging our universities and our unions to create real pipelines to jobs, through the trades, through the unions, and making sure our young people have access to opportunity as they grow. It's about also putting money in the pockets of working families who need it most, which is what I've delivered in 2021 through the Earned Income Tax Credit and raising the wages of pay equity for early childhood educators. It's also about, when we talk about economics, health is wealth. So let's talk about the fact that here in Ward 8, You deserve a grocery store and full access. And the chair of Business Economic Development has delivered 13 grocery stores in Ward 3, but not a single extra one in Ward 8. Health is wealth, so I'm talking about bringing
30
a
seconds, 30
birthing
seconds.
center to Ward 8 residents and a Trauma One center here in our community. But since we're talking about receipts, the receipt I want you all to check is your utility bills this last several months. Because under this watch of this chair, your utilities has gone up every single month because he has stood with Washington Gas and Pepco and not the people of this city. So how do we close economic gaps? We put people first in every way in this city, and that's what I'm gonna do as mayor.
Thank you. Can we please? Hey. Can we please? We need to keep moving. We need to keep moving, please. Thank you. Thank you, Candidate George. Candidate Goodweather, please.
Yo, I understand that, y'all, but when y'all, this is a nasty battle, and I get it, but we live and people can't hear the candidate. The people can't hear the candidates on live stream. Yeah, that's what it is. We got it, because that's a nasty battle. I get it. But we got to let the people that's not here too.
Thank you, Nene. Candidate Goodweather.
I think it's a really interesting question. I think the question, as I understand it, is how are we addressing a systemic issue, including systemic racism. And we need to address how we got here. And we need to call it out. Our government, the DC government has divided us. The DC government has created a system that we are divided socioeconomically, geographically. We have been divided on how policy is done and who proposes the policy and what's behind it. So how am I going to address it? How am I going to create systemic change and improve the quality of life for every single DC resident? First of all, it starts with me. And I will, day one, fund and install the Capitol Corps. And we have 8 branches of the Capitol Corps. It is a city-wide civic organization providing education, training, and career opportunities for every DC resident to ensure that no DC resident does not have a career path. And we are going to fund Fare Free DC to bring down the barriers, the physical and economic barriers of our city and connect us all.
Thank you very much, Candidate Goodweather. Now we're going to go to our individual candidate statements, and I'm starting with you, Candidate Ford. You have 2 minutes. In your questionnaire, you said that the mayor has a responsibility to defend DC through every legal means possible. What will you do when Congress or the president legally rewrites our laws or legally invades us with military forces? What do you do when confronted with the limits of the legal system?
Yeah, so the only thing bigger than the federal government is the people. We use us. We are bigger than the government. And Minnesota showed us that. They stood together like the Vikings, and they stood down the government. And so that is the resource that I use. Yes, we have the District of Columbia Bar, and that is an amazing resource. And a lot of people don't know that a lot of those lawyers serve the legal clinics in Ward 7 and Ward 8 and all throughout our city in housing, landlord-tenant work, public benefits work, domestic violence work. These are the lawyers that are doing the pro bono stuff here. So they're very important to the legal battle. The Office of the Attorney General, like I said, I don't know if we're going to have an Attorney General even in the next 3 or 4 months, based on the way that legislation is moving. And let me just say, the president's also he's attempting to take over DC Superior Court. That's 500 Indiana Avenue. That's where your landlord and tenant stuff is, your family law, all that, child support, all of that. He's attempting to take that over. That legislation has passed in the House. I also sit on your Judicial Nomination Commission. I am a Ward 8 resident that helps pick judges to sit on that bench. And so he's moved to eliminate us too. So we have to, again, the key, like I said, the people are bigger than the government. So what I would do is galvanize and literally mobilize all 8 wards
to raise up that democratic resistance that I talked about, but also galvanize our CEO, Bob Spagnoletti, and our DC bar to basically launch a real legal, the American Bar Association has sued the president. The DC bar can sue him too, if we have an attorney general or not. So that's the contingency plan.
30 seconds.
And thank you all. I feel like I've overspoken already, but thank you all. It's good to be here, and I'll be outside to speak with people in the back. And make sure you sign my petition. We got 4 more days, y'all. 4 more days to get those signatures in. My petition people are right here in this row, so make sure you sign that petition to get another name on that ballot, especially somebody with receipts. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Ford. Thank you. Candidate George, you're up next. You have been, these are individual questions. Yep. Got more to go. You have been an outspoken advocate for policies that some say will provoke anger from Trump and his allies in Congress, and maybe even endanger home rule itself. Why do you think this is the right approach?
Thank you for that question. You know, as I've said before, as a daughter of the district, I know how important statehood is and our autonomy is in maintaining it. And as attorney, I know how important it is for us to choose our battles wisely and be strategic in doing so. That's what I've done for my entire career. But I want to be clear that universal access to childcare for families is not radical. Affordable housing and workforce housing, creating it, is not something that is radical. Closing the achievement gaps in reading and math in our city and ensuring we have equitable food access, none of that is radical. Those things sound like rhetoric to people who only sit in the room with special interests. But these are the things that I hear from working families every single day here in this city. And these are the things that are important. As a legislator, it is my job to listen to and be on the ground with our community and put forth the legislations that are going to make our community safer.
1 minute.
And make our social safety net work together better. So I'm going to be strategic in doing so. And building those relationships that I'm going to build in Congress that I've been doing every single day, fighting to make sure that we have a space and actual, when I went to Congress and heard from people saying, I would fight for DC if I heard from DC. That's what I'm going to do to ensure that we have the leverage we need to fight back. But I want to make it clear, nothing that working families in DC are asking for our government to answer to the many and not the few, to put people over profit, is not a radical thing. And so I'm standing 10 toes down for the city that I love and was born in to produce real results. And that's what I've done for the last 5 years as council member, and that's what I'm going to do as your mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate George. Thank you, Candidate George. Candidate McDuffie, you're next. You were serving on DC's council last year as Trump and Congress attacked DC's budget and began a military occupation. Throughout all of it, you were mostly silent. Please explain why that was your approach.
I'm not sure who wrote your question, but perhaps they need to check the records. I've never been silent when it comes to defending my city, ever. I'm from here, born and raised. When Trump is long gone, my family's gonna be right here. I'm from Washington, D.C., from Stronghold. I live in a home that my grandparents bought back in 1952. 3 generations deep. When this president is finished playing political football with Washington, D.C., I'm gonna still be here, my family's gonna be still be here, and I'm still be fighting for my city. Now, some candidates in this race think it's okay to campaign on sound bites and social media clicks. They talk about legislation and things they did in 2021 when they weren't even the one that led that effort. They hitched their wagon to other people's bills because they don't have a record to run on.
1 minute.
So I'm not sure who made the question, but I've spent my entire career fighting for civil rights, protecting fairness and justice, and we're gonna make sure that we do that whether Trump is in office or some other hostile government. I'm gonna work with the Attorney General. I'm gonna strengthen the mayor's legal resources. I'm also gonna cross borders to talk to our colleagues in Virginia and Maryland and make sure that we have allies who are with us in this fight. We're going to stand strong to defend home rule and the rights of all of our residents.
Thank you, Candidate McDuffie. Thank you, Candidate McDuffie. Finally, Candidate Goodweather, you're up next. DC has had a housing affordability crisis for years, and in 2019 had the highest intensity of gentrification and displacement of any U.S. city. Your company, GME Investments, focused on value creation for investors through acquisition, development, and redevelopment of properties, and has potentially contributed to the affordability crisis by buying and flipping homes. In your perspective, what about your professional experience makes you well suited to be mayor?
Okay, so my company, GME, was founded with the idea of community wealth. The idea is for neighbors, for the community, for friends to be able to invest to ensure that they've got long-term income. And as far as I know, and it's my company, we've never flipped a house. We have created housing for people to be able to live, grow, and to be able to thrive. And my company has, because of all of the work that I've done, all of the community work that I've done, got asked by my old alma mater, Johns Hopkins, to help them. My full-time job is running for mayor, but I am still working with the science nonprofit to be able to redevelop a building to be able to create more jobs and more revenue for the mission. And what I'm going to do to be able to address affordable housing, this is important. Number one, real estate taxes. We are, regardless of your income level or your affordability level, the real estate taxes need to be reevaluated. We need to reevaluate and redo our entire tax code to be able to create a city that is livable for everybody, and to be able to actually bring down costs. We need to be able to vastly cut the permitting and approval timeline. We need more housing. We need more housing that is not just driven by capital that wants to get in and out, to that exact point. We need community capital, and we need capital that is going to make long-term community decisions.
Thank you very much, Candidate Goodweather. Thank you. Now we have our lightning round. Are we ready? You got your fans. And my notes say yes or no, but there's a maybe in there as well in there. It's no maybe? Okay. Because there's, okay, so no maybes.
Is it that we can't answer the questions? We can't answer the questions?
This is it. This is your answer to the question. They're yes or no questions only. It's a lightning round. Quick. Okay, everyone ready? Ready? Got your fans? Okay, first question. Is it ever appropriate for DC's mayor to work with Congress to overturn a DC law? Keep going. Okay. Do you support the permanent appointment of Jeffrey Carroll as MPD police chief? Okay. Next question. Do you support legislation to give the mayor control of the DC National Guard? Next question. Do you support extending youth curfew zones? Running out of time. Maybe. Okay, am I allowed to, I have a procedural question for Free DC. Candidate Goodweather asked me to ask the question again. Oh, I can't, I'm sorry, candidate Goodweather. I'm not allowed to ask the question again. They're telling me.
Madam
I'm sorry.
Moderator, can you repeat the question just so, because there was a lot
Can
of
I do
noise. We
that?
just want to
Okay.
repeat that question
Okay,
so that
sure.
everybody can hear what the question was, please.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Do you support extending youth curfew zones? Okay, next question. Next question. Will your mayoral administration have a federal affairs team? Okay. And the last question. Mumbo sauce, yes or no? Mumbo sauce, yes or no? Mumbo sauce, yes or no?
Spicy, spicy, spicy.
That's okay. You probably wasn't sure you heard what you heard. but you
That's
heard
the
it.
endorsement question, y'all. That's the real endorsement question.
Okay. Thank you, and thank you all so much. We still have questions now from the audience, and it looks like we'll be able to do 3 of them. Someone will give me time, and then you'll have your closing statements after that. So,
Questions for
can we start? 15 minutes? Okay, we have one more. Okay. And each candidate will have 1 minute to answer. Yep, 1 minute to answer. Yeah. My timekeeper will keep me on track with the timing. Right. Okay. First question. What will you do to protect residents of public and low-income housing as well as seniors, which often are sadly in the same category?
I will have a real Department of Buildings that actually is proactively doing inspections, and in addition to putting out fees and fines, actually collecting on those fees and fines. I will also make sure that if there are housing providers who are living our residents, especially our seniors, in slum conditions, that we will make sure that they are not able to continue to be housing providers in this city, and that they will have the real accountability that this moment calls for. I will put money into using our Housing Production Trust Fund, not
30
just to
seconds.
create new housing, but to create and to repair our current public housing, and to make sure that we create the workforce housing that we need in this city to make this city affordable. Our Housing Production Trust Fund has been spent $1.4 billion, and we are deeper in the hole now than we were 10 years ago. So I will prioritize deeply affordable housing
5 seconds.
and workforce housing so all of us have a place to live and stay in DC, and make sure that our tenants feel protected and there's real accountability in this city that we live in, that we work in, and that we deserve housing with true dignity in. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate George. Candidate Goodweather, please.
Number one, I'm going to hold the worst offender, which is DC itself. They are the worst offender of low-income housing and the living conditions in our city. So, number two is with regards to being able to ensure that all landlords are held accountable, public dashboards, everything should be visible, everything should be public in our city. Transparency leads to better outcomes for everybody.
30 seconds.
And when we talk about the Housing Preservation Trust Fund, the current, I believe it's $100 million right now, that's all going to go to just repairing existing stock. So we need to be able to sustain, repair, improve our existing buildings and hold owners accountable as well, and incentivize tenants and owners to ensure they can pay rent so that improvements can be made.
Thank you, Candidate Goodweather. Candidate Ford?
Yeah, thank you for this question as well. So currently in my practice, we're talking about receipts. I currently represent about 300 tenants pro bono. Most of them are in Ward 8. And the issue is, thank you. The issue is, and this started before I was running for mayor, so for y'all who looking and saying something, I've been representing the tenants. But the issue right now is that we have a Department of Buildings that doesn't enforce anything. I literally have buildings that have 100 citations plus. And DOB can refer that stuff to Office of Administrative Hearings, they don't. So I get the phone call after the tenants or DC residents have gone to Department of Buildings, they've gone to the mayor's office. I had the mayor relocate a woman with 2 kids, her unit was condemned for 14 days. And after the 14th day, the mayor's office told her, it's up to your landlord.
15?
It's actually not up to the landlord. DC law provides a mechanism where a landlord has to rehouse you if your
5
housing is
seconds.
dangerous, and the mayor's not enforcing that. So as mayor, I had to enforce DC law. So I had to put my foot on the landlord's neck. And so of course they rehoused the lady 3 days before the storm because I called. But the mayor could have done that. So again, after DC government has failed residents, they call the civil rights trial lawyer to enforce DC law. And there's not enough of me to represent every tenant in the city that has this issue. So that's why I'm running for mayor, because as an executive, I can effectuate way more change than as an individual lawyer. But this housing issue is very important to me. Am I out of time? Okay, God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Ford. Yes. Yeah, you were very good at time. Candidate McDuffie?
As I said, I live in a home that has been in my family since 1952, and today I'm living there with my wife, Princess, and my 2 daughters, Casey and Josie, and I know what it means when a family is priced out of Washington, D.C. It's why, as a council member, I wrote the law that requires affordable housing in district-owned land whenever it is disposed of for affordable housing, for development. It is why, as a council member, I wrote the law that requires anytime that the DC has a surplus, 50% of that surplus has to go to the Housing Production Trust Fund
30 seconds, 30
to develop
seconds.
housing. It's why on the council, I wrote the Fair Criminal Screening Records Act to make sure that housing providers cannot discriminate against people who are coming home from periods of incarceration, right? So that they get a fair shot at housing too. So I have the receipts. As mayor, I'm gonna make sure that we expand the Home Purchase Assistance Project, HPAP and EHAP, to make sure more people can afford the
5
housing in the
seconds.
District of Columbia. I'm gonna make sure that we have more family-sized units and senior housing in the District of Columbia, like the senior houses that's gonna come across the street of my house at McMillan. I'm gonna support reducing the barriers to build housing so we can get more housing built across incomes so everybody can afford to live in Washington, D.C. And I'm gonna create a super fast lane to DOB and any other place where you need a permit so that we can build all the housing that we need across the District of Columbia. And then when we give land to developers, we're gonna hold them accountable to deliver on their promise.
Thank you, Candidate McDuffie. Thank you. Thank you. We still have more to get through. Thank you, Candidate McDuffie. And now this time we'll just go, so we start with you, Candidate Goodweather, with the next question, and then we'll finish. So we'll go down and around. Next question. How will you approach addressing drug use, addiction, and the mental health crises and other public health issues? What commitments are you making to improve DC's approach to this crisis?
I will say this until I do not need to say it again. Mental health is health, period. I want to ensure and will fund to ensure that every DC resident has access to mental health professionals. It is everything comes down back to health and mental health, and including being able to address our unhoused, our homeless crisis. We need to be able to provide housing, and food, but we also need to be able to address the mental health issue, because just by the virtue of being homeless, I believe is a traumatic experience. And once we're able to do that, we can, for all DC residents, be able to improve their lives.
Thank you, candidate Goodweather. Candidate Ford.
So the mental health crisis and the addiction crisis in the District of Columbia, fentanyl, with the way it's affecting Black men right now, the stats are really bad here in the district. There is not a one-size-fits-all approach to this. So I doing it in a minute, I don't think that I can. But one of the things that I want to implement as mayor, we need a real policy council around mental health and addiction. We really do. And we need to have stakeholders at the table, because what the district has tended to do is try to put Band-Aids on things, and it doesn't work. And we spend taxpayer dollars doing it. That's how Cedar Hill is here, I'm sorry. But we spend taxpayer dollars on this stuff, and it's not really hitting. It's not meeting the need. The impact isn't there. We're not seeing the positive impact, especially in Ward 7 and 8, where they dump I heard my brother say dope centers. They tend to dump that stuff in my part of the city. And so that's not the answer for us either. And I walk to work. So I walk down Marion Avenue, and I see people in K2 stupors and fentanyl stupors and all of that on my way to work. So we need a real policy council around this with the real experts, subject matter experts, and community members around the table, so we can find, there's, again, not one solution, but the right package to address this issue effectively in the District of Columbia. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Ford. Candidate McDuffie.
We need to make sure that every resident has access to high-quality health care, as well as substance use treatment across the District of Columbia. We need to make sure that we are strengthening our community-based organizations and making sure the resources go to those organizations that are closest to the ground to connect with those folks who need treatment. We need to make sure that APRA, the Addiction Prevention Recovery Administration, actually has all the resources that it needs to touch the people who need the resources. And when we get federal funding, we need to make sure that we use it for the people who need it in the District of Columbia and not give any money back. Make sure that everybody that lives in the District of Columbia who needs support gets that support. Now we use the resources that are at our disposal to make sure they get it.
Thank you very much. Candidate George, you're next.
Thank you. This is a very tough question. I looked out in the audience and I see my family, who we just a couple of months lost one of our family members to this substance abuse crisis and fentanyl. So it's deep in our family's heart right now, as we lost a young Black man who had more promise and potential. That's why, as mayor, addressing the opioid crisis has to be a priority. Empowering our Department of Health to actually have crisis responders on the ground in all of our communities. Having education in all of our schools and supporting that work, and having free fentanyl strips available for all of our families and our students. We have to take a harm reduction approach. When you're dealing with substance abuse issues, everybody with substance abuse issues doesn't have a mental health issues. Everybody with a substance abuse issue isn't experiencing poverty. Everybody with a substance abuse issue isn't someone who is necessarily down and out, right? So we have to have those conversations and have a crisis response teams that's actually empowered to respond, create the support that is necessary for us to deal with this very real crisis in our city. Our harm reduction work has to be one that requires people to be able to open the door to anyone and give them the patience and the resources and the connections they need to end this deadly cycle. And I'm committed to doing that because this is personal for me and my family.
Thank you. This is our final question from the audience. How will you hold schools and OSSE accountable for serving special education students? And I'm sorry, Candidate Ford. If you could start.
Well, let me stand up, because that's what we've been doing, so let me go ahead and follow suit with that. But you all know I'm in active litigation with DCPS as I stand here. I'm in the house of the Lord, and I keep remembering the pastor's not here right now, but
I'm sorry. Yes.
Well, I'm sorry, what?
No, no,
Yes.
keep
Do
going.
you need me-
Keep going. No.
Okay, so there's some things I can say as a lawyer that as a candidate I probably shouldn't say. But let me just let the trial lawyer speak for a second. We do not have a good chancellor. We don't. I don't care who said we don't. I have deposed him. I have taken his testimony. We do not have and this is a mayoral
30
appointee
seconds.
and mayoral control of schools. We need to reevaluate that. Because I represent the kids who have been abused, broken bones, slapped in their faces. These are nonverbal children. So on the phone at 10 o'clock last night with the mother of a nonverbal child, someone slapped in his face by a teacher. We are not providing the dollars to train staff who work with autistic, nonverbal children. River
5 seconds.
Terrace, y'all letting candidates go over, but River Terrace, Ward 7, that is the only public school for special needs children. It is devastatingly under-resourced. Under-resourced. Now, not all of my parents have their children in River Terrace. So when you look at DC, on a broad scale, you have schools that have IEP classrooms. Those classrooms are not equipped with trained staff. And I've taken deposition testimony, so I know it's talking about receipts, I have transcripts.
Candidate Ford, time.
So they have not been trained to work with nonverbal or autistic children or children with special needs. Some of them have not even been trained to
Ford,
implement IEP. Well, we let the last candidate go over, so I'm just talking because y'all speaking to me. But I'm gonna be respectful. God bless. You guys can ask me about the DCPS and other educational priorities after this. But if you let me finish my thought.
Thank you.
Okay. Sorry, y'all.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Candidate McDuffie?
Every child in the District of Columbia deserves access to high-quality education, regardless of where you live, regardless of how much money you have, and regardless of who you know. So it starts with making sure that there's top leadership in every agency across the board in the District of Columbia government, particularly our education agencies, including OSSI, making sure that our special needs students get the resources and supports they need to get a top quality education in DC, and making sure that they get transportation to that access to that education where it doesn't exist in DC is also tremendously important. Making sure that the resources inside the
30
schools, the
seconds.
teachers in the classrooms have everything they need to give them that high quality education is something that I'm going to prioritize as mayor, because it shouldn't be how much money you have in order to be able to get the resources that you need as a family and as a student with special needs. Regardless of your learning ability, the District of Columbia education system needs to have everything, whether it's a public school or a public charter school, to make sure families get the supports they need in the District of Columbia. And that's what I'm
5
promising to
seconds.
do as a mayor of the District of Columbia. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate McDuffie. Candidate George?
Thank you. Leadership starts at the top, especially as it relates to education. And I want to speak about our students who have disabilities and who have individualized education plans. I worked in OSSI, and when I worked in OSSI, what I noticed is that this city, we take a reactive approach to students with disabilities. And that reactive approach leads to a disparity. Families who can afford an education lawyer and attorney take the district to court, and the district settles, gives them money to go to an
30
out-of-school
seconds.
placement because we don't have enough schools to actually meet the needs. So what I'm talking about as mayor, taking a proactive approach, having a chancellor, a deputy mayor of education as well, who does the work as well. But I'm also talking about providing the training that our educators need, supporting our special education teachers with the resources and funds they need, and giving them realistic class sizes.
5 seconds.
I'm also talking about reforming our OSSI bus system so that our students are not waiting outside day in and day out and not getting their school buses on time. So that's the work that it takes to support our students
It's
with
time.
special education needs.
Time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Candidate Goodweather.
We spend more on education than any jurisdiction in the country per student, with some of the worst long-term outcomes. And we've been focused on the wrong outcomes. We are going to reallocate dollars to ensure that every child in our city receives the funding, receives the money to have special educator as needed, mental health professional, social workers, because it is all connected. So, number one thing I'm going to do, and by the way, we spend, in terms of our dollars spent for our education, the majority of the dollars don't actually go to the educator. So we are going to make OSSI a lot more efficient, a lot more effective for our students. And our capital core, to be able to provide the pipeline of special educators.
5 seconds.
Has an education branch and an early childhood development branch.
Thank you, candidate Goodweather. Now we are to our closing statements, finally. Thank you all so much for all of your input today. We really appreciate it. We're going to start now at the end of the table with candidate McDuffie.
I'm happy to go.
Thank you, candidate. So, my apologies. My first time, but sorry.
I'm on?
Yes.
Okay. First of all, thank you all incredibly much for being here today. Thank you all for incredibly much for being here today. This is really amazing. And I'll say that all of this together, I truly believe that we can accomplish anything. Every person in this room has incredible value for what we are all trying to achieve as a city. Our mission, all of us, is the same. It is to improve the quality of life for DC residents. I'll say our campaign has already been historic. I'm the first candidate in DC's history who's never held public office to qualify for the fair election program, and we did it completely grassroots. We did it because with people who know that it's time for change, new leadership, and new type of leader who executes instead of just legislates. And I will say that even if I am not your first choice candidate, I would ask with ranked choice voting, I want to be your second. And reach out to us. I am running to serve this city. I am running to serve you. And my metrics of success is improving the quality of life for all of you and DC statehood. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Goodweather. Candidate George.
As my grandmother would say, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. What have I shown you since I got on the council? I've stood up for working families, creating an earned income tax credit that put money in the pockets of working families. I made sure we had librarians in all of our schools. I made sure that our students had digital equity, had safe streets that they could belong in, and safe facilities. I have shown up every single day fighting for the people of the District of Columbia.
1 minute.
I have also been the person in this moment. When Trump tried to take $1 billion and the Congress took $1 billion, I was in the halls of Congress fighting for DC. When ICE agents were on our streets, I wasn't hiding. I was on the ground defending my residents and doing the work to make it happen. When it came to fighting for affordable housing, I fought against the rent hikes that were coming for district residents. When it's ever come between the people and someone else in special interest, I have always stood with the people. This race is very simple. It is about action versus inaction, courage versus convenient, and standing up or selling out. And I have stood up, and I will be the mayor who continues to stand up, to provide for working families, to fight for a safer DC, because that is what this moment calls for, a people first mayor and a people first DC. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate George. Can we, thank you. Can we go to candidate, can we go to candidate Ford now? Or candidate McDuffie, sorry. He went first. Right, I just went to candidate Ford, but they're, No, I was calling on you, but then you, because he went first in the, okay. Okay, candidate McDuffie, please.
But I'll go again if you want me to.
I'm gonna try to bring the temperature down a little bit. I told you at the beginning, this fight ain't about these people on this stage right here. The fight is about Donald Trump. The fight is about standing up for people who need the help the most. The fight is about actually showing up in vulnerable communities and fighting for them through legislation. It's the fight I've been waging for the last 13 years as a council member of the District of Columbia. The fight is not about rhetoric. It's not about sound bites on social media. It's not about claps at a forum. It is about delivering for the people who need the help the most. And consistently, I have done that throughout my career. I have fought to make sure that we reform our criminal justice system. I fought discrimination in housing. I fought to make sure that there were baby bonds for people trapped in poverty, and I fought to make sure that this District of Columbia is represented. When Congress took money out of there, I was on the Hill as well, but I wasn't chasing social media clicks. I was inside of the offices talking to members.
30 seconds, 30 seconds, 30 seconds, yo, please, we gotta keep moving.
You got a candidate who talks about lowering utility costs and wants to point the finger. She hasn't introduced a single piece of standalone legislation to deal with the problem.
Five seconds.
And guess what? Every single time she had the opportunity to vote against the public service commissioners, she voted yes. Not once, but twice.
That's a lie. I've never voted. He's been the chair. He's been the chair.
Do not fall for the banana in the tailpipe.
Can't rebut, I'm sorry.
He started
about leadership.
and gas and Pepco and delivered higher rates for
It's
you.
about results.
Let's speak about it. Okay, everybody.
It's about actually doing the work.
Yeah. Let's talk about what Iraq was 12 years ago.
If you can hear my voice, we're going to need others to Lord.
12 years ago.
Everybody needs the Lord. Yo, hey,
Hold on. We have another candidate to hear from. Let us be respectful.
everybody, we have one more candidate. It's time to be respectful. We have another candidate. Everybody, we have another candidate. McDuffie, action, please. Go back on stage. Everybody, we have another candidate. We're not going to do this in the house of the Lord because I will start cussing. All right, so sit down. Let's be appreciative. And let's listen to our last candidate.
I got that. McDuffie back, y'all. We're gonna respect black women too.
Exactly. We're going to
Daddy still got
more
mercy.
time. This is...
We have another candidate.
All right, so we're going to sit down.
There is another candidate.
Exactly.
Let's be
Thank you.
respectful.
You all save this energy for the vote that's coming up next. Thank you, and we're going to ask all attention, sir. Let's give it to Yaida Ford.
Respect
Well,
black
if you
women.
ain't ready, let Yaida Ford do it. I'm going to ask you to exit, sir. I'm going to ask you to exit.
Here, we gonna finish this and we gonna respect this black woman.
We're sorry, I have a mic, thank you.
My apologies,
Wait.
Aida. My apologies, Ms. Ford.
The fuck is wrong?
Okay,
Calm down,
all right,
calm
we
down,
have
calm
one
down,
more
calm down,
candidate to hear
calm down.
from. Let us be quiet so we can hear from candidate Ford. Can we do that? Please, candidate Ford.
Now, see all this energy I just saw right here? This is what we need when we stand up to the White House. All of this right here. I need all of this. Okay? Because that's where the angst and the anger is directed. To the person trying to take over our court system right now.
That's it. Come on.
Taking over our budget right now.
That's it.
So I need all of this for that. So civil rights trial lawyers, you know, we don't specialize in writing legislation. We fight.
That's what we do. That's why so many DC residents hire me. And as I said in the beginning of my opening, God has blessed me because I've been successful. I take very hard cases. Some of you know the names. Deon Kay, Kevin Sherd right now, Ward 4, police shooting.
1 minute.
And so I've taken on very difficult, very powerful institutions, and again, the Lord has blessed me. But before I did this, I was a legislative drafter. And for all the bills we're talking about, I worked for Jim Graham. I worked for Jim as a legislative lawyer. Back then, council members hired you based on a subject matter, if you were a subject matter expert in something. And so I had a background. I worked for the Legal Aid Society of the District of Columbia, where they specialized in public benefits at the time, and Jim hired me because I'd already drafted legislation that passed unanimously at the council. It was a welfare to work bill. And so that's how I got my job at the council. And when we drafted legislation, thank you, and Wells was there, Councilmember Wells, Councilmember Alexander were also there during my tenure. And when we drafted bills, we had to work with other council members on the committee, and we had to sit down and we worked. And Jim was a tough boss, may he rest in peace. But he didn't play. And so we sat down with other council member staffs, and we had
5 seconds.
Legislation that had an impact. Bills had to measure up. And residents had to, we were responsive. Our council members were accountable to the public. So they were hard on us because the bill had to make sense. I had to sit down with some of you in this audience, I sat down with, and we had to make bills make sense because just as legislative writers, we didn't know all the issues and all the ins and outs like that. And so as mayor, I understand there's a combination of experience that I bring to the table, the fighter. I have a proven track record. We've been shouting receipts all throughout this whole thing. So I have my verdicts and settlements. They're public record. You can see that. But I also bring the legislative background because I did that long before I became a trial lawyer. And as a trial lawyer, I also did it. We tried to pass legislation amending the WMATA Compact because you can't sue WMATA when their transit officers shoot or kill someone in an unconstitutional arrest. And we tried to push that to the council, and they haven't done anything with it yet. So that's another issue that we need to address. And we lost some time because of all the brouhaha, so I'd appreciate just being able to close. So thank you all. My petition folks are still here. I think Mr. Petit is there. Mr. Petit, raise your hand. Sign our petition. We have 4 more days, like I said, to get me on the ballot as the candidate who's the fighter, the advocate with receipts about standing up to the government for DC residents. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you. I think we have, we're going to hear a closing remark, but I have to make the announcement that there's a black Mercedes. The plate is GLA 250, Virginia tags. There's also, Virginia tags GX80K3. And then there's a silver Ford Explorer that needs moving, DC tags FA8970. Move your car or it will be towed. And thank you all, and thank you all.
Thank you, everybody. Now is the time for the noise and the hype. Let's bring it back. All right, I do have some quick announcements about the straw poll. I have announcements about the straw poll, right? We're gonna take a picture with the candidates. So we are opening up the straw poll. Both the mayoral race and the delegate race are on the same ballot. We hope all of you all can stay for the delegate forum, right? But if you have to leave and you wanna vote now, drop boxes will be open in 4 minutes. In order for your vote to be counted, you have to go to one of 3 drop stations. If you give your ballot to an usher or a volunteer, it will not be counted. You have to take your ballot to a vote box, put it in a secure box, and then you will get a stamp that says you are voted. You have been voted. That is the only way we will collect ballots. If you give me your ballot, it's going in the trash. If you give your ballot to an usher, it's going in the trash. The only way you can vote is to do what? Put your ballots in one of the vote boxes. You can vote right here in the side hall, you can vote in the front, or you can vote in the fellowship hall. After candidate pictures, we're gonna have a ranked choice voting information session right here in the sanctuary. So if you want to talk to candidates, you're going to have to find the candidates outside. The candidates are not going to be staying in the sanctuary. They're going to be going outside. right? Thank you, everyone. We will be getting started in about 20 minutes with the delegate forum. I encourage you to wait until after the delegate forum so you can vote for both candidates because you only have the chance to vote once. If you vote right now, you cannot vote again at the end. One vote, one time, one person. You do not. Whoever is here. Voting is open to anyone who has attended today's forum. Everybody in the building is welcome to vote. Brandon. Oh. Oh no. Come on, Brandon, come on up.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes. My team wants a picture with you.
Oh, sure.
That was a weird place to.
I think bad down there. You can see it. Yeah, I tried earlier.
Hey, mic check. Hey, y'all, I want y'all to know the church was getting ready to put us out. They say that this is a church and we should be in decency and order, and we want to respect the church. The church literally was getting ready to shut it down, and I had to ask for permission not to shut it down. So, y'all, let's be respectful at the next forum, and let's be respectful of the house of the Lord. Amen. Amen.
Where'd the mics go? He'll do, Sam wants it. No, you're good. Who? No. Stay. All right, everyone, we are going to start ranked choice voting. If you want to fellowship, a ranked choice voting educational session, if you want to fellowship, if you want to mingle, we ask you to go to the fellowship hall. There may be some goodies in the fellowship hall. We had cake. Oh, all the food is gone. Thank you to Kiki McBroom who catered today. But there's water in the fellowship hall. You can go down there to socialize. But in here, we're going to ask everybody who's staying to be quiet, to lower your voice, so we can start with the ranked choice voting demonstration.
And I'm outside to socialize.
I am. Everybody, we're going to ask you to exit the fellowship hall unless you are here for the ranked choice voting educational demonstration session, right? So we're going to usher you out. Thank you, because we're going to need a little bit of quietness in here. Ranked choice voting is in full effect for this election, and people need to be educated on what to do. Candidates, we're going to ask you to go outside, take your crowds outside. You're good. Yeah. Candidate 4, we're going to ask you to socialize with folks outside. Yes, ma'am. All right, everyone. So now we are going to hand over the floor to Brandon, who's going to start our ranked choice voting educational demonstration session. Thank you, everyone, and we ask for all attention to be to the stage, and we're going to ask for everyone to lower your voices if you're staying in the fellowship hall. Right? If you can hear me, clap once. If you can hear me, clap twice. If you can hear me, clap 10 times. 10 times if you can hear me. Okay. Everybody can hear me, so everybody else, if you can't hear me, it's time to go outside. Go outside. Go outside. All right, Brandon.
How are y'all doing? How are y'all doing? Okay. Now, I know I'm a raging homosexual. However, I grew up in the church, so I like to do a little call and repeat. When I say free, you say DC, all right? Free. Free. Free? Okay. Now, I'm also saying for you to turn to your neighbor and say, neighbor, neighbor, neighbor. I will learn how to rank my vote. Say it again, I will learn how to rank my vote. All right, thank y'all for paying attention to me. I know that was quite intense. That was a lot. However, like I said, I am Brandon Bush Thompson. I am the engagement coordinator for Grow Democracy DC, and I am here to teach all of you about how to rank your vote on your ballots come June 16th, okay? Now, all of us have a very important call to action here. This is something that we're trying to do throughout all of DC. And my organization is one of the leading ones trying to make sure that we are touching as many people as humanly possible so that everyone goes to the polls feeling empowered and feeling comfortable with filling out their ballot, okay? Next slide, please. Now, to explain a little bit more about how we got here, in June of 2024, with Initiative 83, they collected 40,000 signatures from voters and people in DC in order to put ranked choice voting and semi-open primaries to the question of the voters themselves. Then, in November 2024, we had an election. DC voters voted over 73% in support of ranked choice voting, which means that this is something that our people wanted to see, okay? With that being said, last summer, the DC Council chose to fund ranked choice voting implementation. And now this upcoming June, like I said, we will be using ranked choice voting for the first time, okay? Next slide, please. So we're going to hop straight into it. When you receive your ballot, you want to make sure that you rank your favorite candidate first, okay? So in that first column, whoever is your favorite candidate, the candidate that you support the most, you want to make sure you rank them as your number one choice. Then you are going to rank your backup choices, and you get up to 5 choices in total for who you want to rank on your ballot. You know, there could be 9 people on one ticket or one race. You get up to 5 choices for people you can rank, okay? And also, you can rank just one if you want to. We encourage you to rank and use all of your choices. However, you can rank as many people or as little people as you want to. Just make sure that you rank somebody, preferably multiple people, okay? Then, your vote stays with your first choice unless one of the candidates gets the least amount of support or loses in that race. Then your choice or your vote will shift to your next ranking in the order that you rank them on your ballot, okay? Do we understand that? Is that understandable? That's all right, that's all right. Make sure, I'm gonna pass out some stuff, some materials so that you can see exactly what I mean, okay? So find me if I don't find you myself, and we'll show you an example of the mock ballot. If you look up at this screen right here, you can see an example of what a mock ballot might look like, okay? So, once again, rank your favorite candidate first, then rank your backup choices. And then your vote stays with your first candidate unless they are in last place or get the least amount of support in that race. Then they are eliminated, and your vote will simply move to your next choice, okay? Next slide, please. All right, and what not to do. You do not want to rank a candidate more than once, okay? So that means you get your ballot, and you fill it out for one candidate, and you mark them as your first, your second, your third, your fourth, and your 5th choice. That will not give them more votes, I promise you that, okay? That will just count as one, all righty? So please make sure that you're filling your ballot out correctly. Next slide, please. Oh, go back one. All right, what not to do. Please do not skip on your ballots, okay? So you have the ability to skip one person. We encourage you once again to not skip on your ballots. Let's say we have 5 candidates, right? This is candidate A, B, C, D, E. With skipping, you can rank your first person, and if you choose to, you skip the second person, candidate B, but then you have your next candidates who are up there who are going to be your C, D, and E, right? That will only make sure that it moves your candidates up. So instead of there being a second ranking right here, or instead of there being this candidate here, it'll simply move to your candidate 3 being your third choice, or being your second choice, I'm sorry. So instead of it being ranked this way, it'll simply be that this is your first choice. If you choose to skip B, this will be your second choice, third choice, fourth choice, and so on and so forth. So you want to make sure that you keep that in mind and fill out your ballot correctly. Now, if you double skip, meaning that if you vote for candidate A, but skip B and C, everything after that first candidate will not be marked, okay? So no double skipping. Again, we encourage y'all not to skip at all, okay? Fill out that ballot correctly. Next slide. All right, we also want to make sure that you are filling in each column, or making sure that each choice is in a different column and in a different row. Remember, different column, different row. You do not want to have anything filled out more than once in one singular row or in one singular column, all right? All right, is that clear? Y'all getting that? See, when I was going around and educating our seniors about ranking their ballots, they understood. I went to Model City's Wellness Center, Senior Wellness Center, and the one thing that they did get was how to fill out their ballot, which is telling us that not only are we prepared as a city to make sure that we can educate each other, but to also educate ourselves and go out into the community and make sure that we're holding each other accountable to filling out our ballots correctly, because all of our voices have to make sure that they matter when we get to the voting booth, okay? So, y'all all just received some RCV education, right? So, that means that now you have the opportunity to go and talk to people in your community about what ranked choice voting looks like, how to rank your ballot, and making sure that they feel empowered when they go into the voting booth, okay? I appreciate y'all for giving me this time. I will take questions and all of that stuff once I get down from here, and be here to also hand out materials. All right, thank y'all once again for giving me this time. I really appreciate y'all. Who I give this to?
We are not free until we got a delegate. Come on and make some noise for all the candidates. Come on and make some noise for our moderator, Sam Collins from the Informer. Let's have some love to these candidates. There you go, Sam, right there. All right, everybody. We're going to get started right now. A few announcements and a welcome from Free DC. Remember, questions will be taken via note cards. Our volunteers will be coming around with note cards, and if you have a question, write it on your note card. Voting is still happening. If you have not voted, you can vote after today's forum as well. Thank you, everyone, and let's have a good show. Actually, let's turn it over to Free DC, Nene, Kea, and Alex for some welcoming remarks.
DC is under attack. What do? I don't believe y'all believe we're gonna stand back, rise up and fight back, because we don't want to be enablers, so we want to rise up. I need to try that again. When DC is under attack, what do? When DC is under attack, what do? When home rule is under attack, what do? When home rule is under attack, what do? Yeah. So we're going to keep this cute and try to move this along today, because we had a long day and we had a very interesting first debate. Woo-woo. So as y'all know, some of y'all know, my name is Nene Teller. I'm a co-founder of Free DC, as well as the executive director of Her Wildest Dreams. I'm joined here today by my fellow co-founders, Kay and Alex. And we're going to get this day started. I'm also an East of the River DC native, and I want to welcome you not only to this forum, but to the great Ward 8. We are honored to be here today in Ward 8 and at the Matthews Memorial Baptist Church. Thank you to the community and congregation and Matthews for sharing your space with us. If you know me, you know I love DC, especially Black people. And I'll fight for the people here and now. Right now, that's all we have to do. DC is under attack. Federal agents are profiling, shooting, and killing people in the street. National Guards are harassing our youth. Congress is overturning our laws and attacking our budget. And this president is showing no signs of stopping. This year's elections are going to be so important to DC. DC is going to elect a new mayor for the first time in 12 years. A new delegate for the first time in 35 years. Let's show some love for our delegate, Eleanor Holmes. Shout out to her, holding it down for 35 years. Multiple new members are going to be on the council. We need every single one of these leaders to be on the side of the people, not this regime. Isn't that right, y'all? What we need to do, we need to free DC. Can I hear you say that? What we need to do, we need to what? Free DC. We need to what? That's why we're here today, and we have to discuss this. And right now, I'm gonna turn it over to Kaya, so y'all can hear a little bit more what we're gonna do today.
Thank you, Nene. All right, who all was here for the first part of this? Did you have a good time? It was spicy, huh? That was fun. So Free DC is going to be endorsing, as you heard then, in both of these races, the mayoral race and the delegate race. We are going to need your input in order to do this. And so that's why we're here today having this forum, and that's why we have these excellent candidates up here so they can tell us how they're going to protect DC, our power, and our people. And that's what we heard from in the mayoral forum earlier this afternoon, and it's what we're going to hear from today. But I'm going to repeat what I said before. No matter who wins in this election, every single one of us in this room, on this dais, everywhere, is going to have to work together to make sure that the result of the election is honored. We are all going to have to do that together. And so we have some steps. We have some next steps to get there. We have on March 28th, we have No King's Day. We're going to be meeting really, really close to here and showing off some of the power of DC. Yeah, let's hear it from meeting in Ward 8. And then on May Day, on Friday, May 1st, we are going to have a day of no work, no school, and no shopping. And this is how we show our collective power. When we do that together, they cannot ignore us. And so we need everybody right now to put that day in your calendars, get ready, figure out how you're gonna make it happen, because it takes a little bit of planning and logistics. And we're gonna show our power. And that is just 1 month before early voting starts in DC. And that's our moment to say we will not tolerate a militarized election. We will not tolerate you trying to overturn our election results. And so that's a day for us to really protect our vote. And speaking of voting, I'm going to pass the baton to Alex to tell you how we're going to vote today.
Thank you all. Okay, so thank you all for being here today, and I'm here to read the rules of the day. Again, the same rules apply from the last debate to this one. We're honored to have Sam Collins from the Washington Informer as our moderator for this debate. And once again, please support our local independent media. The Elections Committee and moderators have worked together to develop questions for each forum. Each of the candidates will have set time to answer each question. There will not be an opportunity for direct rebuttal. Dante will keep time once more. Can we get some noise for Dante, who has been keeping time? The underappreciated but incredibly important role of timekeeper at any forum. And we will take a limited number of questions from the audience. If you would like to ask a question, there are note cards out front, or Frank, who's waving his hand right here, has some that he can give to you. Just raise it in the air when you're ready for it to be collected, and one of our ushers will collect it. We got one over here. Perfect. Thank you for modeling how to ask a question. Voting is currently open. So as part of this forum, we are having a straw poll, what's called a straw poll. It's voting from the audience. Everyone should have received a ballot when you arrived. If you did not, there are extra ballots in the front at the welcome table. You may vote for one candidate for mayor and one candidate for delegate. There are voting boxes open around our space. Just look for someone with a voting box. Voting will remain open until 4:30, which should be about 30 minutes after the conclusion of this program. So be sure to vote by 4:30, and after voting closes, the votes will be counted downstairs. If anyone wants to witness the vote, please join us downstairs. The results of today's straw poll will count for 10% of any one candidate's endorsement in our endorsement process. Thank you once more to all of the volunteers and the ushers and the childcare workers and the ASL interpreters and the Spanish interpreters who are making today possible. Thank you to all of the candidates who are here. Thank you to all of you for listening. And with that, we'll turn it to Sam to get us started. Thank you all.
Before we turn it to Sam, I just want to make an announcement. We want to be respectful of people's time and letting our candidates answer. And so we want to make sure that the audience, we also live streaming. And so last time, then it had got really loud and stuff, and the church was really great to put us out. So let's be respectful of the church, and also so that we'll be able to hear each candidate. Okay, cool? I don't think we got that crowd now, but I just wanted to get it out there. I don't know, Robert White may have brought some people. All right, Sam, you're yours.
Appreciate you. Peace and blessings, y'all. How y'all doing? Y'all can do a little bit louder than that. Don't worry about last time. How y'all doing? All right, okay. Well, shout out to y'all for working to be really informed voters and for making the effort to come here today on a Saturday of all days to just hear out these candidates. As we were saying in the green room, these are treacherous times, and these are the times where we need to be very cognizant about what we want. So shout out to y'all for taking the time out to learn about each of these candidates. I'm going to name each of them one by one. Let's give them a hand. We got Deirdre Brown. Let's give her a hand, come on. ANC Commissioner Kelly Michael Williams. DC Council Member Robert White. And Kelly's listening. Let's give her a hand, y'all. Let's give her a hand. All right. Okay, so we're going to start it off. I would like each candidate to please introduce yourself and share why you're running for this office. You have 90 seconds. We're going to start with Ms. Brown, please. Yeah.
Good evening, everyone, or good afternoon. My name is Deirdre Brown. I am a third-generation native Washingtonian. I'm a former ANC commissioner, a mother of 5 children I've raised here in the district, small business owner, and currently the chair of the Ward 3 Democratic Committee. I graduated from UDC David A. Clark School of Law, and for those who don't know, is the top public interest school in the United States, and that's where I learned to use my legal background to fight for and advocate for DC residents. I have spent the last few years fighting for housing, educational rights, equity in education, Black businesses, because I'm a small business owner. And the reason I'm running today is because we need to make sure that whoever holds this seat continues the legacy of Eleanor Holmes Norton. What we don't need in the seat is someone who's going to comply in advance, who's going to bend the knee, or just keep the status quo. We need a fighter, someone who's not afraid, who doesn't owe anyone anything, and will fight for DC residents. Thank you.
All right, candidate Williams.
Good afternoon, everyone. As Sam said, my name is Kelly Michael Williams. I'm the ANC chair for 8E. I bring 25 years of experience to this position. I've worked in the White House. I was the administrator for a federal agency. I worked at the state legislature for the Speaker of the House, worked on DC Council, and as an ANC commissioner. I'm in this race because I believe there's one thread that runs through this election, and that's humanity. I was homeless in this city with my 3-year-old son, and I was told point blank when I went for services that we don't serve men. So I had to take that in and decide what I was gonna do. I ended up sleeping in the back of my car, raising my son. That now 3-year-old is now 22 years old, just graduated from NYU and is getting his master's in London, England. I also took care of my mother for 13 years. It required me to leave DC government because she has Alzheimer's and dementia. Medicaid and Medicare was allowed me to do that until she passed away last year, 2024, on January 11th, just before I started the campaign that I was running for right now for delegate on January 12th. So the reason I'm running is for healthcare, housing, and home rule. Because I believe without healthcare, you have no dignity. Without housing, you have no stability, and without home rule, you have no ability for democracy or make your own decisions. What you want is you want someone on there who has done the job before in the sense of being able to understand every level of government and how it's gonna work. I've done that.
5 seconds.
And I'll be the one to be out there to fight for you, same way I took care of my son and fought for him, and the same way I took care of my mother and fought for her.
Yes, sir. Andy White.
Good afternoon, family. I'm Councilmember Robert White. I'm a 5th-generation Washingtonian, and like a lot of native Washingtonians, I grew up the hard way. But I never let setbacks stop me. When I was in junior high school and tired of getting all my clothes from the Goodwill, I picked up a broom at a barbershop on 1st and Kennedy and said, "Can I sweep floors for money?" He said, "Come on in." Within 4 years, I went from my guidance counselor telling me in high school that I would never go to college to on a plane flying to Oxford University. When I came out of law school, my plan was to practice and make some money, but I found out about an opportunity in the office of Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton. I became her legislative counsel for 5 years. My plan this time last year was to run for mayor of this city that I love. But I love this city so much that when I saw ICE and the National Guard and Donald Trump trying to take over the city, I said, I've got to go to where the fight is. The fight is now a federal fight. We need somebody in this seat who understands that these are not normal times. We need somebody who knows their way from Kennedy Street to Capitol Hill, from difficulty to triumph. We need somebody who is ready and set to run and fight for our city. I am that person. I've represented this city. I've gotten things done on the council that no person ever elected to our council has ever done. We need somebody to go to Congress and do what a delegate to DC has never done. And now is our time to fight for DC, to free DC, and to make DC the 51st state. And I'm asking for your vote.
Good afternoon. I'm Kenny Zalesny. I've lived in this city for 30 years. I've raised 4 kids here. I love this city, and I hate what's happening to it. I'm running for Congress to represent DC because Trump is crushing us, and we need a proven, experienced national fighter to stand up to his assault. I am the only one in this race with a proven track record of winning on the national stage. At the Justice Department, I beat back the congressional Republicans when they tried to kill our after-school programs. And when we got them through, that lowered crime in DC faster and farther than ever. I worked in the White House, and I fought to get every school and library in this city, especially in Ward 7 and 8, wired for the internet, so that every family in this city could participate in the last technological revolution. And we're about to have another one. And you don't want people leading you who have never been through anything like that before. As president of Peer Forward, a college access nonprofit in Adams Morgan, I helped boost the college enrollment rate in this city from under 40% to over 60%. And Barack Obama was so impressed with our results that he gave us a big chunk of his Nobel Peace Prize money. You may be more familiar with other candidates in this race, but this delegate job is for a proven national fighter who wins. And I'm the only one with a track record of bringing this city new results, new resources, and lasting results. Thank you.
All right. I got these questions right here on this paper. Let's go in. We're about to go in. All right. There are currently more than 70 bills and budget riders in Congress that attack DC in some way. Congress wants to charge 14-year-olds here as adults, take away DC's local attorney general, and they also want to allow for high-speed police cameras and much more. The representatives behind these bills do not care about DC residents or the impact that these bills will have on our communities. Our next delegate will need to be an advocate against these attacks. How would you approach this task? Let's start with Mr. Williams first. You have 3 minutes, as do your fellow candidates.
So the first thing I'm going to do is I have a bill. It's the Freedom Act. And the responsibility of that bill is to first, day one, introduce the statehood bill once again, just as Delegate Norton did. But within that, it's going to have a rider that will eliminate any congressional riders to our budget and our legislation. We want to strengthen home rule. And so what I'm looking to do is take that legislation, strengthen home rule, so that it completely eliminates anything that Congress will have to do with us. Take the rider, take out our riders for our budget, take out riders for our legislation so we don't have to wait 30 days for Congress. Secondly, what we're looking to do is, as I said, strengthen home rule as a whole. Puerto Rico, Guam, those other countries, they don't pay federal taxes. And one thing I would look to do eventually is make it so we don't have to pay any federal taxes. If we don't get statehood, we don't pay any federal taxes. I think that if we get taxed as a state and all the things that we have to do right now, pay more taxes than any other state in the country per capita, we shouldn't have to be paying federal taxes. Thirdly, we're looking to then create opportunity for we have a transition into statehood. So we have full autonomy over our budget, over our legislation, and over our city government, so that the mayor has total control over the federal agencies, National Guard. Our streets are controlled by DC. Federal agents are on our street. My belief is that we should introduce legislation at the local level, as well at the federal level, where you can't have masks on the street, since DC owns the streets. Federal agents can't be on our street. Secondly, I think that we should be able to stop any federal agency, from being able to patrol our street in the manner that ICE is doing it right now, DOJ, all the other agencies. Give that power and control to our mayor. We write the legislation to stop it.
1 minute.
And we make sure that, therefore, no other agency comes in here, nor the president comes in here to do exactly what we're seeing right now happen. Donald Trump has to go, and so does all that Republican power in the Congress. Ultimately, your delegate is going to have to be a stand-up defender for DC. We have to defend our autonomy. We have to defend our sovereignty. We may not be a state, but we sure are treated like one in some cases, and we're treated like one in other cases. But then when it comes time for them to want to do something, they want to take our state power away from us. So my position is we're going to act like a state, we're going to be like a state, we're going to be controlled like a state, and so therefore we have to be able to put legislation forth to become that state. And I'm looking forward to becoming that next person.
In the past year and 3 months, we have seen the National Guard deployed to our city, and probably none of us here believe that they have been deployed to help us. They have strained relationships between law enforcement. They have ignored rules of civility. They have hurt people. We have seen ICE deployed in our streets, taking parents as they drop off their kids, using kids as bait. We've seen Congress continue to steal money from DC. Last March, they stole $1 billion of our money from our budget. Just a few weeks ago, they overturned our tax laws, which will cost us $600 million. Now, I don't think that's right. Does anybody in here think that's right? Is that right? No, it's not. Now, here's the good news, is that people in DC are tired of it. We are so used to Congress and the White House punching down on us, but this time they've gone too far. There's too much fear, there's too much anger, there's too many of us who want to protect our jobs, our neighbors' jobs, our kids, our communities, the things that we love. But this is a time for us. What we saw, and it was proved with Free DC's March last September, that people will show up and fight back. So here's what we're going to do to protect our city. We are going to make sure that there are consequences for members of Congress who we don't elect and that we can't hold accountable. There will be consequences for them when they come down on DC and vote against DC. Now, raise your hand if you're in this room and you're willing to go to a swing state in the general election to make sure Democrats win back control of the House. All right. Outside of this room are thousands more. What we will do is we will organize to make sure that Democrats regain control of Congress. And with that, we're going to make a statement that when you come down on DC, we're not going to sit and take it. We're going to go to where you are and we're going to work against you. And so in every re-election, when they have to vote on these bills, are you going to overturn DC's law? Are you going to steal money from DC? Are you going to cost DC residents $600 million? Are you going to stand idly by as federal agents break the rules and break the laws? The answer from DC is going to be no. So we're going to organize thousands of DC residents to make sure we are unelecting the people who are doing it to us. Then we are going to move closer to statehood, and here's why. Everybody in this country is aware of the redistricting battles happening across this nation, whether or not you live in a state that is focused on redistricting. This is about power. Now, Democratic power will come more from 2 Democratic senators from the District of Columbia than it will from any handful of redistrict House seats. We're going to make sure the Democratic Party understands that the path to power, to protecting democracy, is through DC statehood. So no more lip service to us in DC who pay federal taxes and follow the rules and fight in wars. We need Democratic leadership and national leadership to respect DC, to support DC statehood and home rule, and we're going to move this issue forward right now.
Those are good summaries of the problem, but that's not a strategy for making any difference. I told you before, I've had jobs where I've had power, and I've had jobs where I've had no power. I worked in the White House. I worked at the Justice Department. I ran the strategy team at Microsoft. I know what it's like to have power. And I ran a little nonprofit in Adams Morgan that started with nothing. I know what it's like to have no power. And when you have no formal power, like when you're DC on Capitol Hill, the way you win, the way you get things done, is by finding allies and partners to fight with you and for you. You can't do it alone, because that's what it means to not have formal power. For 30 years, I have been building coalitions in every sector, finding the friends and allies, often in surprising places, to fight with and for the causes I'm fighting for. Now, let me say something about our autonomy and our statehood. There's going to be 3 steps to get there. We can say all day long we're going to make the righteous argument, but it's not going to make any difference. There's going to be 3 steps to get there. 1, we have to build more support for statehood in this city. I know we've done a ton to move the issue forward, but it's not enough. There are too many people still in this city who either have power and don't think they need a state, or have no power and don't think statehood's going to help them. So we have more work to do inside this city to build the issue. Then we've got to go to our friends in the National Democratic Party. And I was a Deputy National Finance Chair at the DNC. And I can tell you, DC is on the list, but it is never at the top of the list. And if you don't, and I know the people who are in the congressional leadership and across the Democratic Party. I have worked with them for years. We have to work with them one by one to bring them on board to our side. It's not going to be it's not going to be just organizing in swing districts. We have to find what actually moves those key leaders, and we have to succeed. And then, once we've rallied our own team and the Democratic Party, then we go to the Republicans. And we pick off the people who are interested in a grand bargain. Something for them, something for us. That's how we're going to get the DC statehood.
Can I call an audible? Can I call an audible? Sorry, football term. I would like to ask a follow-up. Is that fine? No? Okay, no problem. All right, go ahead, Ms. Brown. I had to ask.
All right, so we just heard a whole bunch of words. All right, so anyone who knows me knows I'm a very pragmatic, straightforward person. I'll over-deliver, I'll under-promise. A lot of what we heard sounds good, but it's not in reality. The reality is, when we start talking about we want to change the home rule charter, you need someone who understands, first of all, the legal basis of that. What can and cannot be done. We can fix it. We can make it stronger. We can fix it by having resolutions that allow for the Congress not to be able to interfere, but only specifically when it's something that does not include federal money appropriations or federal buildings. That's the caveat. We can make it so that the mayor, whoever sits in that seat, has control over the troops. We can make it so that they cannot take away our AG and our ability to vote for the AG. But when we start talking about all of these other things that sound good, doesn't mean that it will happen. As far as the seat, I believe that we will, in the next term, be able to get the floor vote in the House again. And once again, I say that knowing that we're probably going to be able to turn the House and get back the House in the Senate. I think that should be our priority. That will be the first resolution I put in when I'm delegate. The last thing I want to say really quickly is when we start talking about building coalitions and talking about national stage, here's my question for you. When you have somebody who you have never seen before, who does not show up, who's not in the community, who's never talked to you, how are they bringing your concerns back to the table? How are they going to fight for you when they don't even know what your concerns are? This isn't about who has the most money or who's getting PAC money or who has the best friends in Congress or go down to Mar-a-Lago. This is about who's going to sit in that seat and fight for you. Eleanor Holmes Norton was a civil rights leader. She was a community leader, and she did her best for many decades. That's the type of person we need in that seat. Lastly, I just want to point this out to folks. All of us here are registered as Democrats, but only one person up here actually has been active in the state committee Democratic Party. And you can say what you want, but you cannot say you're a Democrat only at election time. You need to show it all the time. You need to show up and fight for Democrats from day one, not just when it's elections. Thank you.
Before we go to the next question, there's been an iPhone found upstairs. A black iPhone is at the registration desk. If that's yours, you can find it in the main lobby. Once again, a black iPhone. All right, next question for the candidates. We're going to start with candidate White. We're going to continue with the coalition building part here. So every representative needs to build a coalition with other Congress members. And that's true for the delegate as well. If you wouldn't mind just reflecting deeply on a time when you built a coalition to advance a goal and talk about how you would use that approach if you go to Congress.
3 minutes?
Pardon me, you have 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you. So in my last question, I spent 1 minute on the problem, I spent 2 minutes on the strategy, and then I had a candidate say I didn't talk about a strategy, only to follow it with a watered-down version of my strategy, but added that we need a grand bargain. And I'm wondering, where were you in Obama's first term when we tried the grand bargain just for a vote in the House? We can't have somebody in this seat who is flat-footed, who hasn't been around and involved enough to understand what has and hasn't worked in the future. We need somebody who is sprinting, not learning. I've built grand bargains, in fact, one to expand democracy. How many elected officials can say they've expanded democracy? The last relic of Jim Crow is in the voting box is not allowing incarcerated people to vote. Now, that is a concept that hits you hard when you're an elected official, wondering how that's going to resonate with people when you go back to run. But I talked to them about what the issue is, why it was important, the history of why incarcerated people lost the right to vote, and how it was deliberately aimed at Black people. We built that coalition and passed this difficult bill unanimously in the council. That's the type of work that I've done. But we're going to complete that. Deserves a round of applause. The only jurisdiction in the nation that has ever done that. Now, what we're going to do in Congress is work with my friends that I already have in the region, Congressman Walkinshaw from Northern Virginia, Congressman Glenn Ivey from Prince George's County, Congressman Jamie Raskin from Montgomery County, people I know personally. But I've worked to expand that into the Congressional Black Caucus, into Democratic members from other areas, helping them to understand how disenfranchised residents are. What I was saying in the last 30 seconds is a story. When Congresswoman Grijalva was being finally sworn in 50 days after she was elected by her residents in Phoenix, I texted her that morning. I said, congratulations on being sworn in. I cannot believe that the residents who elected you to represent them in the Capitol have gone 50 days without any vote, any say whatsoever. When you get sworn in today, please don't forget the 700,000 residents of the District of Columbia that have gone 250 years without this representation. And she says she understands and she's with us.
All right. Okay.
I want to tell you a story about building a coalition right here in this city. My college access program, called Peer Forward, our insight was that the most influential person in the life of a 17-year-old is another 17-year-old. So we looked for the influencers in every 11th grade class in high schools across the city. And we took those students and we taught them how to do their college application process, how to fill out the FAFSA, how to write a compelling essay, how to build their college list. And we taught them how to teach their peers. And then we empowered them to change the college-going culture of DC's schools. Now, once we saw that they could really do that, I built the coalition of businesses, of foundations, of parents, of community leaders, and of Congress itself. And we got federal money for this. In fact,
1 minute.
not only did we get federal money to support the program, that was part of the new and massive resources I helped bring into the city, but we helped Congress change the metrics of high school. It used to be that the metrics were just graduation, and that's all anybody was measured on. But we helped them change it to be measured on college enrollment, so that high schools were responsible for actually getting their kids across to the next
30
stage.
seconds.
I built that coalition in this city and then across the nation, which is why Barack Obama noticed and saw the results and thanked us with a big portion of his Nobel Peace Prize money. That's coalition building. Nobody thought, we didn't have name recognition when we started. We didn't have money when we started. We didn't have fancy people helping us or friends in high places.
5
But we
seconds.
built it from the power of those students, and we created a coalition that has changed the face of college going in this city.
So anyone who knows me knows that when I see a problem, I address it immediately. I don't back down from a fight, whether it's popular or not. So some of you guys may know that I was the chair of Vote No on Initiative 83. So regardless if you are for or against ranked choice voting, that's not the point. The point is that I fought for a year and a half, almost 2 years, because I felt a certain way about that initiative. More importantly, during that process, I realized that there were some people who were out there cheating the system by using whiteout on their petition pages. I did what I needed to do to bring attention to that, including going to the Court of Appeals. If you look at the bottom of your petition sheets today, you'll see there's a statement that says you cannot use correction tape. You cannot use correction fluid. You cannot change anything after the voter has signed. That's the type of leader I am. I see a problem and I address it, whether it's popular or not. I am the vice president of the Black Business Task Force. We worked with McDuffie, Councilmember, McDuffie, a few years ago on the disparity study, because DC is one of the only major cities that does not have a minority business enterprise. We only have a certified business enterprise. And we have been fighting and working with Congressional Black Caucus to make that happen here in the District of Columbia for our neighbors, because we know that prosperity begins oftentimes with businesses, especially when you cannot get a federal job or a DC government job at the moment and the private sector won't hire us. That's the type of leader I am. Last but not least,
30 seconds.
I have been working as a legislative committee woman for multiple clubs where we lobby council, we lobby the zoning commission to fight for you every day. So it might be something you read about in the paper, or it might be something that makes the news, but I'm out there fighting for you, and I have been and will continue to do so. Thank you.
So at the national level, when I was at the USDA, during the Black farmers crisis, we built a coalition to ensure that every Black farmer, after the bill was passed and the lawsuit was approved, to bring them all together so that they can actually be able to get funding from the Department of Agriculture. Many of you know that even after the lawsuit was filed and Black farmers were awarded, they never got their money. So what I was able to do was get together all of the Black farmers, put them in a coalition or a consortium, get them $800 million from USDA for a school lunch program that has continued to now, there's well over $2 billion. At the state level, or DC level, I was the one that introduced the bill that allowed the GED recipients to now get their high school diploma. In Maryland and Virginia, they were able to do that, but in DC, they were not. So when I worked with Vincent Orange, that issue came to me. I went to him and said, we need to put this bill forward.
1 minute.
We were able to put that bill forward, and now anyone who gets a GED in the District of Columbia gets their high school diploma. Now they're able to get better jobs, better education. Lastly, as an ANC commissioner, I have slumlords in my area. I was able to go around the community. We went to the Attorney General's office, being able to file a lawsuit against the slumlord to be able to move them and get them out so they can stop their gun violence and what's going on. And then more importantly, this pin and this bracelet is with Free DC. I've worked with, gone into Capitol to legislate or to advocate with other legislators, other members, to make sure that they would give us back our $1 billion and fight for that. I didn't just go into back rooms. I was out in front of Capitol Hill actually advocating for our $1 billion with other ANC commissioners, with posters. You can go to my website and check the receipt. That's the kind of coalition we'll do. Federal, state, local, and ANC commissioner. You need somebody at every level to understand every level to be able to put something together for us right here in DC.
Our next question, it's a 1 minute question, and it's in honor of Delegate Eleanor Holmes Norton, who served in her seat for more than 35 years. We'll start with candidate Zelesny. Please talk to us about something you admire about Delegate Norton. 1 minute, please.
Thank you. I first met Delegate Eleanor Holmes Norton in 1995 when I was working in the White House, and she was 4 years into this job, and I have had enormous respect for her ever since. Jamie Harrison, who was the DNC chair, endorsed me in the early days of this race, and he said in his endorsement that he's known me for decades, and he's known Eleanor Holmes Norton for decades. And he said, Kinney is the right leader to carry on the relentless advocacy for the people of DC that Eleanor Holmes Norton has always represented. And it would be my great honor to inherit that mantle and to take it further and farther as we confront today's problems and today's opportunities.
Candidate Brown.
The one thing I admire about Eleanor Holmes Norton, first I should tell you, I'm a member of the Eleanor Holmes Norton Legacy Fund, where we raise money every year to give to UDC law students, my alum, money scholarship money they can use to take the bar. I respect her greatly, but more importantly, we need to remember who she was. She is a Black woman who is from the community, a civil rights leader who would not be bullied. You couldn't bully her, you couldn't talk down to her, you couldn't get her to be quiet even when they wanted her to. That's the type of person we need in this seat. We need somebody who's going to fight, who won't be bullied, who won't give up, and who won't comply in advance. That's why I'm asking Free DC to endorse me. Thank you.
Delegate Norton is a civil rights icon. DC statehood is a civil rights issue. Being able to fight for civil rights is an opportunity to be able to advocate for the things and the lived experiences that you've gone through. When DC government told me that they don't service men, when I had a 3-year-old son and I said, I need support, that was a civil rights issue. I had to fight against that. Now, 19 years later, they're still doing the same thing. I've gone to the council and talked about it.
30 seconds.
I've actually mentioned it to the council member's office to deal with it, and it hasn't moved. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to the federal level, and I'm gonna create programs, financial programs, to be able to do that. Because I know that Delegate Norton wouldn't just sit there and allow something to happen and not try to fight against it, even if she wasn't able to get it at that moment in time. So even though we weren't able to get it 19 years ago, we're gonna keep fighting so that single fathers in this city will have something. People who are going for public service and look to your government for service gets what they get what they need when they go after it. So that's what we're gonna make sure we do.
All right, appreciate it.
The first time I met Congresswoman Norton in person, I was a college student doing an unpaid internship, and I organized a speaker series on Capitol Hill. This internship led me into the halls of Capitol Hill to meet members. And members of Congress are never on time, which means Congresswoman Norton's speaking slot got shifted. When we told her it got shifted, she gave us hell. Pastor Turner, that's in the Bible, so I think I can say it. She said, you're not gonna treat me differently because I'm a delegate and don't have a vote on the floor. And it wasn't about that, it was about her other colleagues who took too long. But I learned that relentlessness working in her office. Believe it or not, I had hair when I went into Congresswoman Norton's office, and I had none when I came out. So Eleanor Norton took my hair. But it was that relentlessness. She came in early, she left late, she worked on the weekends because that was what was required without a vote to fully represent and fight for the residents of the District of Columbia. And it is that woman's relentlessness that I hope to mimic as our next delegate to the United States Congress.
Awesome, awesome. Next question, this is a 2-minute question. I'm kindly asking that we keep it tight within 2 minutes. Congressional attacks on DC will continue to happen until we win statehood. Until that time comes, and as we work towards that, what singular legislation could Congress pass right now to strengthen or expand home rule? So once again, a singular piece of legislation that Congress could pass right now to expand or strengthen home rule. We'll start with candidate Brown. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I think the one thing we need to do to strengthen home rule is pass legislation that says that Congress cannot interfere in our appropriations or overturn our democratically voted in laws unless it involves federal issues and or federal land. And what I mean by that is that they should not be able to tell us how to tax at a local level. They should not be able to tell us that we can't have an AG that we elected democratically. They cannot be able to tell us that we can't use our own money to take care of our own people. And that is the biggest issue we really need to address when it comes to home rule, stopping that right there, right now. Because until we do that, we will stay vulnerable to the whims of the Congress members who do not represent us and who are not held accountable to us. Thank you.
Introduce my bill, Home Rule Protection and Anti-Interference Act, which will do just what I said when I had the opening. It will prevent Congress from being able to put riders on our budget. It will prevent them from being able to interfere with our legislation. And essentially, it will give us a stronger home rule. It'll give us a budget autonomy, and it'll give us legislative authority so that we don't have to worry about Congress in any way. The Home Rule and, Protection and Anti-Interference Act will do just what the question asks. Helping that to be able to put in. We put in day one and we fight. I'm one that believes that you get people on the record when they want to vote against something or vote for something. We may not be able to get it passed in this administration, but you get Democrats and Republicans on the record. Get them on the record, because what we also know is that the one way that you fight this administration and their GOP office, through the media. You use the same thing that they use for their strength against them. And you go out there and you do a blitz media presentation on social media, on every news. We got 214 members in the Democratic Party. Every one of them needs to be on somebody's news station or social media every single day when they stop and block us. I agree with my colleague here. We need to be out there and going across the country and making sure that any Democrat who votes against us and any Republican who votes against us gets punished for voting against us. Their citizens and their constituents get freedom. We deserve freedom. Seconds. This is a civil rights issue. So we want to make sure that we go after them as a civil rights issue and we make them feel the pain that we feel. If they don't feel it, we don't feel it. If we feel it, they got to feel it. And that's what I'll do.
Look, there's no question for me, the #1 priority for the DC congressional delegate is statehood for the residents of the District of Columbia, who pay federal taxes, who will fight in these wars that Donald Trump is starting, but will have no vote whatsoever as to whether or not we go to those wars, and that's not right. Now, DC statehood will take a little bit of time, maybe not as much time as a lot of folks in this church think. But in the meantime, the first thing that we have to do is protect our budget and our legislation from congressional interference. Budget autonomy and legislative autonomy have been top bills for Congresswoman Norton for years. Now, when we regain the majority in a less apologetic time, we need Democrats to pass those bills so that Congress can't, as they have in the past 1 year, steal $1.6 billion for us. So they can't, as they have in the past couple of years, overturn our reform of our criminal code. The only way to stop that is to get the Congress's hands off of our legislation and our money. They have no intention whatsoever of helping us. They don't understand how to run a city. They're not going to pay the consequences of the money that they stole. They're not going to be accountable to the residents of the District of Columbia. Did you say time, brother? 1 minute? Okay, there we go. And so we can pass bills to protect that aspect of DC. That is the biggest thing we can do short of statehood. Now, this is a time that we should be able to get that done. We haven't been able to get it done in the past because there wasn't enough Republican support. Well, guess what? There's never going to be Republican support for this. There's never going to be Republican support for DC statehood because Republicans will not, under any circumstances, support 2 Democratic senators for the District of Columbia. And we got to recognize that reality and work within reality. But we can, with a less apologetic Democratic majority, and they had better be less apologetic when we come into power after November, pass legislative and budget autonomy bills.
I think all 3 panelists said basically the same thing, and I agree. This city pays more per capita federal taxes than any state in the country. We pay more in absolute taxes than, I think, 13 or 14 states. We serve in the military. We don't have any say in those wars. We don't have any say over the judges who work here or anywhere because we have no Senate representation. We don't have any say over the president's cabinet. We don't have any say over the president's ambassadors or any of the other things we would have if we had 2 senators. The most important thing we can do on the way to fighting for that is, as everybody said, protect our budget autonomy. The reason we got screwed last year when they stole $1 billion from us is because in the midst of the DOGE catastrophe, they treated DC like a federal agency. So when they froze all the federal spending, we got caught up in that. It doesn't have to be like that. I dare say that even Trump didn't intend that. But the congressional Republicans screwed with us, and the congressional Democrats weren't ready to fight for us. And the groundwork hadn't been laid to anticipate the problem and come up with a solution and find those friends and allies to protect us. As your delegate, I will be vigilant. I will be proactive. I will know all the shenanigans they are planning. I will be planning some shenanigans of my own to protect this city, to know in advance what is happening, what can happen, and how we put our best foot forward to protect our rights and advance our interests.
Awesome. So now it's time for individual questions. The questions I'm about to read are tailored to each candidate. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond to the question. We'll start with candidate Williams first. Candidate Williams, you have run for delegate before and you were unsuccessful in your attempt last time around. What do you believe is different about this go around?
I appreciate the question. As in anything, when you apply for a job, sometimes you don't get it the first time. So you try again. Because the climate is different, there's a realization and understanding that this seat is not ceremonial, that this seat actually has power, that there's actually a responsibility tied to this seat. As I campaigned last time, in fact, I was the only one up here who campaigned last time. I was the only one that decided that it was time that we put someone out there to protect what we have and not just let it go down, right, and let Republicans come and take it over. So while I respect my colleagues, none of them felt that it was necessary for them to get in the race last time. Some of them sat in their cushy jobs and stayed there until news media came out and said it was time. I didn't do that. I took the chance, I got out there and got my petition signed, and I actually worked and worked hard. So this time around, whether you're looking for name recognition or you're looking for someone to actually do the job, if you're looking for someone to do the job, then I'm the one, because I've already been out here. Because I don't think anybody is happy with what we have in our city right now. Is there anybody happy with the way our city is going right now? All right. Well, who do you hold responsible for that?
30 seconds.
You don't hold me responsible for that because I wasn't in control of power. But you come to look for me when you want to make a change. So if you're looking for status quo, go right ahead. I'm not your guy. But if you're looking for a spine and a backbone, come see me. My name is Kelly Michael Williams, and I'll do the job.
Give thanks, give thanks. All right, Candidate Brown, this question is for you. What is your message to voters who might be worried about your opposition to Initiative 83 and how that might translate into your job if you are elected?
All right. Initiative 83, most of you know, but it included ranked choice voting and semi-closed primaries. The ranked choice voting piece moved forward. I believe then, and I still believe now, that it will disenfranchise certain populations of our community. We will see if I'm right or wrong in June, right, when the numbers come out. But we know historically how these things go. And so I stood up when other people didn't want to, when it was not popular, against big money, out-of-state money, who were calling me names, booing me, and stood 10 toes down that I believe this is not going to help my community. That's the type of leader I am. That's the type of leader I'll be when I'm in delegate seat. I am not going to sit in that seat and allow people to bully me into being compliant. When it comes to now that ranked choice voting has passed and been funded, I have spent great effort trying to educate our community, hosting Board of Elections, trying to get people ready for ranked choice voting, making sure that they know what to do when that ballot hits their mailbox on May 1st, because that's also what you do. Once something has passed, once it has become law, it's my job to protect it, to stand it for it, and defend it. And that's what I've been doing with the ranked choice voting. And when we're in the delegate seat, that's what I'll do for every bill that our elected council members pass. I will fight for it to make sure it does not get overturned. That's the type of delegate I will be.
All right, Candidate White. This is in connection to your answer earlier. So as a DC council member, you have been criticized for being quote unquote soft on crime. Since crime is an excuse that Congress often uses to attack DC, how would you work to change that perception or to challenge those attacks, given that perception?
Yeah, soft on crime is a term that people who aren't willing or aren't able to look forward use. Soft on crime is a term used by folks who believe when it gets hot, when people demand that elected officials do something, that you go back to this well-worn, let's lock more people up, give them harsher sentences so I look tough, even though it never worked before. But I grew up during that tough on crime period. I saw the lack of fathers. I saw the lack of stability. I saw people come back to our community no better off. But what I didn't see was a safer city. I saw us kicking cans down the road. So instead, I take action. I created a free master's in social work program because when these young people are saying we don't have enough mental health help, I do something about it. I'm pushing for us to get trade and vocational education back in our schools because when young people say the problem is I want to make money and they can make money selling drugs, but they can't get a job making $80,000 without a degree, we're not listening. So I tell folks, if you want somebody who's a politician, you got a whole lot of choices. But if you want somebody who's going to stand up even in tough times and try to fix the problems, tell you the difficult truth, then I'm the person that you should elect. Now, I also want to be clear. The tough on crime people will often, when crime goes down, first of all, there's somebody who's not up here that take a whole lot of credit for crime going down, even though it was going down before they got here. But then they'll change their position, right? When it's no longer popular to be tough on crime, then they soften up. Then they got an ICE bill, right? Oliver Blue. All of a sudden, when somebody else starts working on an ICE bill, then they want to put up their own bill. We need somebody who is going to have, as my colleague said, a backbone in the tough times. That's what we need. Somebody to go to Congress and say, no, this is not soft on crime. This is smart on crime. To say we love our kids. We believe in our kids. We can do better, but we won't do better if we keep doing the same things that didn't work yesterday.
All right, candidate Zelensky, this is for you. So according to an August 2025 financial disclosure report, you have personal assets worth somewhere between $7 million and $30 million, much more than I have. DC is a city where nearly 20% of the population lives below the federal poverty line. How do you expect, or how will you expect to represent district residents whose material conditions are so dramatically different than yours? You have 2 minutes.
My material circumstances were not always so different, but I was lucky to work at Microsoft, and I led the strategy team there, and the stock price skyrocketed under our team's leadership, and it gave me a lot of assets that I hadn't had before, and I'm grateful for them. At every stage in my life and my career, I have tried to, and I have tried successfully, to expand justice and create opportunity for everyone. I told you the story about Peer Forward. I worked for years to increase college-going opportunity for students across the city, and I succeeded. I worked to expand access to justice at the Justice Department, working as counsel to Janet Reno, and I succeeded. I worked to make sure that every student and family in this city had access to the internet, when that might have been the new civil rights divide. We stopped that problem from happening, but it was not a foregone conclusion that everybody, even if you didn't come from money, would have access to the internet. But we made sure that didn't happen, and every school and library in this city and in this neighborhood was wired for the internet, so that everybody got to participate in the new way of being. So regardless of how my own financial circumstances have changed and improved over the course of my life, I have consistently and repeatedly and always fought for expanded opportunity for everyone in this city and for people across the country.
Seconds. Appreciate it, appreciate it. All right, family, we're getting down to the wire. We have audience questions. I'm going to give 3 questions. Ms. Brown, please talk to me about how you plan to address the thousands of laid off federal workers and the domino effect on our economy. 1 minute.
Thank you. I'm glad you asked that question. My mother was a federal worker. She retired as a federal worker, and her and my stepfather was a labor union worker. That's how they raised us. It was in a time where you could be in a union working job and in federal work, and your kids could live a middle class. We know that's not the case now, right? We have thousands of federal workers, mostly are women. Many of them are women with children, so single parents out here with no work. I have people on the streets when I'm petitioning coming up to me crying
30
about
seconds.
how they can't find work in the private sector. They can't find work in DC government because there's no extra jobs open. What we have to do is protect our federal workers by strengthening the union labor laws. As a delegate, I'll be fighting for that. We need to get some of these workers back to work, and we also need to find new jobs for them. That means retraining, workforce training, because some of these jobs just are never going to come back. These are workers who want to work. They're not lazy people, as some people try to say. They don't want to be on public benefits. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Mr. Williams. Yes, sir, same question, 1 minute.
I think you go in and put in legislation and just say, you know what, we're gonna hire them back. That may seem simplistic and may seem like out of touch of like, why? But they fired them under an executive order. So when that executive order runs out, technically, you'll be able to get them back. But let's fast track it and move it forward. I agree with my colleague. Try to retrain them and try to put them somewhere else. But that will take time. These people need services and assistance now. So being able to go out there and again, use the same bully pulpit that they used to fire them with. Go out there, coalesce, and galvanize the communities and march against it. We have to learn how to fight back against a whole lot of stuff. This is a civil rights issue. We have to make it a civil rights movement. And if we don't do that and we just keep sitting back waiting for something to happen, it's never gonna happen. You have to go out there and make it happen. So we have to just go out there and do what we have to do. Civil rights is the answer, and push forward.
Thank you. Mr. White?
This is the place where we need somebody who can hit the ground running because people are hurting right now. Almost all of us know families where at least one parent has lost the job because of the antics of this president and this Congress and the inaction of this Congress. So there's three things that we're gonna do to refill these jobs and stabilize our families in our district. The first thing we're gonna do is pass legislation to protect federal workers so that this can never happen again. As we hire talented people back into our government, they have got to have some confidence that foolishness like this won't happen again. Then I'm gonna pull from my experience that others don't have. I'm gonna do what we did at the Wharf and Navy Yard and Walter Reed, transfer federal properties to DC so that we can build jobs, housing, open small businesses. The last thing we're gonna do is take a page out of Puerto Rico's book, which has something called Act 60, where businesses that relocate to Puerto Rico do not have to pay federal taxes on work that they export, like lawyers and marketing. That will attract businesses to DC that will create new jobs that we don't have now. That's something that we can do in the first 2 years in this seat.
So this issue hits me really personally because I was a federal worker. I worked at the Justice Department. I am heartbroken over what this president has done to the Justice Department. It's going to take a generation to rebuild, if it's even possible. And I have many, many friends who lost their jobs to the reckless and indiscriminate DOGE cuts. I have helped people find new jobs, sometimes at the state level, because as much as I hate to lose them from DC, but they have an expertise in government
30 seconds.
that's valuable. At state, it's like the only upside I have been able to find in this experience is that some state and local governments are able to borrow and benefit from the expertise that had been developed at the national level. Robert is right that we need to build an economy that is less dependent on the federal government. I am the only one in this race with any experience in the private sector. I am the only one who will have credibility with the national business sector as we try to bring new industries and new job creators here.
Awesome. In the interest of time, we're going to do one more audience question. We'll start with Ms. Zalesny. Please pardon me. This question is for everybody, 1 minute each. Ms. Zalesny, you're first. DC has been denied statehood because of constitutional limitations. To overcome taxation without representation, do you support making DC exempt from paying federal taxes? I guess that's a yes or no.
In my heart, I do, but it's not practical. It's not the way we're going to win our statehood.
You have a minute to explain.
Okay.
We'll go further.
I mean, of course, taxation without representation. We don't have representation. We shouldn't be paying taxes. I mean, it's very clear. It's emotionally compelling. It would make a big show. It would get a lot of headlines, but it won't, in the end, win us the partners and allies that we're going to need to make lasting and real
30
change.
seconds. Okay. Candidate White, your turn.
No, I don't support ending federal taxes in DC, and here's why. If we do that, we become the same as the territories. It gets really hard for us to explain to people in Maryland, Maine, Vermont, and Wyoming why we deserve to be a state. Now, the District of Columbia residents are different than any of these territories, and when we start rolling it back and we go to people in Maryland and Maine and we say, we want to be a state, and they say, well, we want to be like you. You all don't even have to pay federal taxes. We will lose momentum in our fight for DC statehood. So as much as I would love to and frankly need to save a couple dollars because these kids are expensive, my Lord, we've got, in Pepco, but I'm not going to get started, but we've got to continue fighting for statehood. We cannot afford to lose any of our arguments so that we can make sure people across the nation and frankly across the world understand how differently DC is treated than any other jurisdiction.
I think we use it as a carrot and a bully stick. As I said earlier, Puerto Rico doesn't pay any federal taxes. We can do that and say, we're not gonna pay any federal taxes. Because of the amount of federal taxes we pay, I think we can use that as a carrot and a bully pulpit to galvanize and get our residents together to basically fight so we can keep and fight for statehood. I agree, we need to be able to fight for statehood because if we do anything to lose momentum, other states and other elected officials who would have to vote for that statehood may feel like that they don't want to vote for us. But I think if we use it as a carrot to push forward to say, well, we're going to hold back our federal taxes, then we can be able to move that forward and fight. I think we need to fight for statehood and use that as our ultimate goal and end goal to make sure that we go forward. Whatever we have to do to get there, that's what we have to do. By any means necessary, we have to get statehood.
So this is another one of those times I'm going to be pragmatic with you guys. That sounds good. But constitutionally and legally, that's not going to happen, right? Also, if we do that, there's a chance we lose some of our federal funding, and we do need it. What I do advocate for is slow taxes. And if you haven't taken the Free DC slow tax seminar, you should. And I've been practicing slow taxes, and I encourage my other DC residents to do the same. But that is something we can do. It is legal. It is ethical. And that's a way we can get if enough of us do it, it's the way we can get the administration's attention.
Good, thanks. How y'all feeling?
Slow taxes, and so.
Hold on, y'all want to Google that or holler at on Free DC. All right, okay. No, sorry. So we're doing closing statements. We'll start with Mr. Williams, and we'll work our way down back to Ms. Brown. Mr. Williams, you have 90 seconds. Closing statement.
I want to thank Free DC and Matthew Memorial for this opportunity to be here. As I said when we opened up, this election is about humanity. And how we treat our residents, how we treat our people moving forward should be key to how you decide to vote. You want to have someone who has some lived experience to be able to understand some of the plights and situations that you've had to go through. I believe I have that. You also want someone who has some experience in government, writing and dealing with public policy. I have that as well. You also want someone who's not afraid to stand up and push back against those who are in control and in power. I've done that as well. Ultimately, at the end of the day, you want to have someone who represents your interests. And the person who represents your interests is a person who actually has lived your interests. Being homeless in this city and not being able to deal with the government in a way that we should be able to go to your government and get support and get help and be turned away is what people have experienced before. Being able to have to deal with Medicare and Medicaid for my mother, many people have to deal with that now. So when you look back and you think about where you're going or where you've been, you want someone who has a lived experience and a track record at every level of government, succeeding and being able to accomplish what they've set out to do. I'm that individual, Kelly Michael Williams. Number 1 or number 2? You got ranked choice.
Yes, sir. Give thanks. Give thanks.
I want to thank you all for being here. I truly want to thank Free DC and Matthews Memorial for hosting us today. And I also want to thank my fellow candidates. Each of us are here because we share the underlying philosophy of Free DC. So at the end of this race, we've got to be unified because we find ourselves in a time, all of us, as somebody who studies history, I always thought I was studying things that happened before would never happen again. But I find myself, as you find yourself, at the crossroads of history. Now, at the end of this race and at the end of this term of Trump, we won't be able to go back in time and redo anything. That means we have to leave it all on the field right now. I'm leaving it all on the field, and I'm asking that you leave it all on the field with me. We need somebody who has fight, somebody who has done the impossible, has gone from being a failing student to a law school professor at Georgetown Law. We need somebody who has followed the course of honor, who has done for his city what people must do if they love the city, to go work for the delegate, to change what their own plan, to go become our delegate to Congress. We need somebody who knows their way around. This is the pivotal point that we will look back on 10 years from now, 20 years from now. We have to say to ourselves and to young people, I did everything that I could. Now I'm going to do everything that I can, but I'm asking for your vote because I know that I can't do this alone. Now there are millions of dollars in this race, and that's all right because we have people. This is the money versus the movement. This movement is not about me, it is about the District of Columbia and who we will be in the future. And I'm asking for your vote so we can make sure that we are the great state that we deserve to be.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right.
We are under assault by our own president. And what DC needs is a proven, experienced national fighter who wins. I have done that over and over and over. Nobody else in this race has proven themselves on the national stage, taking on congressional Republicans, taking on the White House, taking on inertia, taking on the status quo, and won. But I have done it over and over in the public sector, in the private sector, and in the nonprofit sector. I can fight for this city, but more importantly, I can win for this city. And we cannot afford to pass on the opportunities to have winners in these seats. We have a short window in this city in June to put our A-team in place. If you like the members of DC Council who are in this race, keep them in DC Council. But give this national job to the one person in the race who has repeatedly won and performed and succeeded at a national level, fighting for DC and winning. Thank you. I'm Kenny Zalesny. I appreciate this forum. I appreciate the work of Free DC. I appreciate the hospitality of the church. And I'm humbly asking for your support.
This time, for this seat, we have to protect it. And what we need in that seat is someone who's going to use their legal education to advocate for district residents, not to get rich. We need somebody in that seat who already has boots on the ground in the community fighting for housing, education, voter integrity in our small business, who understands, who speaks to you, who talks to you, who you see on a regular basis. We need someone in that seat who's not afraid to stand up and fight back. What we don't need right now is people who only show up at election time. We don't need right now people with empty promises that sound good, but will never happen because they're not realistic. This seat has to be someone who is going to bring to it the passion to make sure the DC voters are getting what they want. Not empty promises, and definitely not the status quo. We're past that. This is very personal for me. I live here with
30
my
seconds.
black children who walk in these streets with you guys. So when something happens to them, it is as if it's happening to me. And that's what I'll take to the delegate seat. You need to ask yourself, who do you want sitting at the table fighting for you? And who is going to speak for you because they understand you? That's who we need as the next delegate. My name is Deirdre Brown, Deirdre for DC. Thank you.
Let's give our candidates another hand, y'all.